All right. I'm not used to starting the meeting, but it's 6 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First order of business is set and adjust the agenda.
Did some adjustments, right?
We do have a couple of items. We would like to, first of all, move the police officer appointment to further up. It will actually be the second item. And item number 1 for the select board, to sign the final documents for the library bond, followed by the police officer, and everything else will shift down after that. Please.
So moving item 10 goes to item 1.
Yes, and then item 2 will be the select board to sign the final documents for the library bond, and everything else will just shift down after that.
What's happening?
Shifting.
10 is going to where?
To number
To
2.
1.
Or to 1.
10 is going to 1.
And 1 is going to 3. Right?
Yes, essentially, yes. And then everything just
One's going to 3?
renumber. Right, because after the police appointment, we'll have the bond documents,
Oh, yeah.
followed by the tax rate and so forth and so on, yes.
So it's not just moving item 10 to item 1 and then pushing everything else down?
It's moving item 10 to 1, adding an item after that for the documents, then
There's a
everything will
new
get pushed
one.
down.
For the documents?
Mm-hmm.
The
Signing the documents.
Signing of the
bond
bond documents.
documents.
Oh,
A even dozen. Is that precedent?
I think that knocks up to 13, isn't it?
Is it bond
13 now?
documents? Bond documents for the library.
Correct. just the
Should that
final-
come after the library discussion, or is
It
it?
doesn't need to, Eric, these are
Okay.
the things that were already approved
Okay.
at the vote. You guys just have to sign them so I can get them back to the attorney.
Okay, sounds good. All right.
So, did you make a motion?
I did not, but I move that we approve the agenda as modified. Second. As adjusted.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is approved minutes from the last regular meeting, which was June 17th, and, the burn ordinance public hearing meeting. Sorry. The public hearing for the burn ordinance, which was also June 17th, immediately preceding the regular select board.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of the June 17th meeting as written and the burn ordinance public hearing, June 17th as written.
Second.
Any changes, discussion, whatever? Good minutes. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And we have 1 abstention. Yep. So motion carries, minutes approved. Communication from the audience. Anybody want to communicate anything that's you're not coming up on our agenda?
Yes,
Patrick Kane, please state your name.
Patrick Kane.
Thank you.
Spell that for us. The classic spelling. Is it okay? The time?
This is the time.
I'll make it snappy because I know you guys have a busy night. So this has to do, this is really in form of a question about what the town's policy is for new utility services in the historic downtown district. This went in recently.
Yeah.
Is everyone familiar with this? So just really a couple of questions. One is, it appears to technically violate ADA, so it's potentially a hazard because it sticks out from the building. So that's a general hazard question, like, do you really want something this vulnerable, this close to the sidewalk where people will mess with it? So that's sort of a hazard question. Second question is, do we have a policy about in the downtown district where we're trying to, improve the town and in the name of economic development? I know a lot of folks building owners in town have made some great strides to improve the town. And I was just curious, does the town have a kind of policy around this sort of thing?
So not that I'm aware of.
Well, we don't have a design district or anything like that. We haven't got any plan to do anything like that.
Yeah.
The problem that they'll have with this is they'll never get any historic preservation money if they continue to do things like this to the property, because they just won't. They, you know. But a lot of times historic preservation folks will, if you move it, then, you know, then maybe it would be okay, but maybe he'll never go for any historic
Does the
preservation.
utility, I mean, it's a town-owned utility, so does the utility have any say in trying to reduce the negative impacts to downtown buildings, since they're technically a town utility? Ideally, they would be rolling with us, right, on this kind of thing? Unless I'm missing something.
I think you're missing something. We're all missing something, because I don't think they have a policy on that,
Yeah.
obviously.
And also because it is unusual, like most of the buildings in town, when I think I was a senior, that they redid Hardwick and moved the power behind the buildings on the south side. So this was also unusual. I've never seen anyone in town do an install like this. So that's why I asked the question. Most folks, this is not something you see, so I wasn't sure how it came to pass.
It's difficult to see from this photo, but is that on the main block on the right, is that the external shutoff? There's like a lever if you walk by that seems pretty
Well, obviously,
vulnerable.
they moved the service. There's an existing service that wasn't in this location, so they clearly moved the service to this location. So I guess the first question is, what was wrong with the first service location? And then it seems to me that if we don't have a policy, it might be worth having something somewhere so that downtown business owners don't degrade the experience of downtown when so many other building owners have spent so much time and energy really doing great things to their buildings. I would just say also, just parenthetically, I've done a lot of work in downtown White River. I'm not sure if you guys know the kind of history of the White River downtown renaissance, some people call it. When I first started working there, it was really a bit completely dead downtown, rough shape. Now if you haven't been there, it's incredibly vibrant. And one of the things that I think has really made that possible is a number of building owners built some incredible projects there, built some great stuff, renovated some great buildings, and they have done a lot of work really being very careful about the architectural, the quality of the projects that they've done there. And it's had a huge positive impact on that downtown. So in the way that if you study this subject, in the way that one great building in a block will spread positive energy and economic development in a downtown, one ugly building will have the exact same impact in the other direction. That's how slums start. One building goes down, and it slowly over time degrades the value of the whole experience. That's why I think it's something worth thinking about, because it does have an impact on the long-term viability of downtowns, which are already challenging environments to maintain viability economically as it is. So it's really the form of a question. I really didn't know, and that's why I brought it up. I don't have any suggestions in terms of a policy. I was in the form of a question.
I believe we have an opening on the planning commission,
Yes, we do.
which could be an
It's a
answer.
shame, I hadn't noticed it, but it's a shame, I would have been complaining about it too.
Is it a question, in terms of ADA, is it a question for zoning? And
I would direct those questions to our zoning administrator for sure.
Well, that's an obvious one, you know.
Yes.
There is a technical fix, but that's, however, you don't generally want to violate ADA out of the box when you're doing a project. Ideally.
That's a violation of ADA.
Because a blind person, it sticks out too far. So if you're blind, it doesn't come to the ground, and there are rules about if you project a certain distance from the wall, if your cane can't detect that, they get hit with their head without detecting it. It's no question. It's not very far. It's something like 3.5 inches. There is a fix. I mean, you could build a box around the thing, and that would solve the ADA problem and improve the aesthetics. So there is a practical fix.
It's not beautiful.
No, it's pretty ugly.
Been there for 2 months.
Has it?
Why didn't you say something?
All right.
Yes,
Pretty ugly.
because I'm pretty sure that was on the left-hand side of the building.
Before.
In between the insurance company and there.
yeah. Used to be
So
over there.
I think they had to move it. I'm not saying why, but I know probably the light department has more info on that, because they got fire escapes and stuff now off to the side of that building.
yeah.
On that side.
Well, that fire escape.
And so, and upgrading everything, so.
More than
of the
2
tower.
years.
This is not an upgrade.
Fire,
This is not
So-
an upgrade.
yeah, no, and the fire escape's been there for quite some
I
time.
suspect
No, we got a brand new stairway that
you'll find
goes all the way
the
up
power
through.
company had more of an impact on us than you think. Because they're pretty picky about putting in services
Yeah.
and where the meters are, how high they are, where they face. Right? You know
Yeah,
that from
no,
your own
they are.
experience.
Yes, I do.
And so they may have wanted it there, but it's not funny, but the odd thing about all this is that they're probably gonna go to the type of meters where they don't have to read them anymore.
Right.
So what difference does it make? It could be in the basement again, like in the old days.
I mean, this is the only building downtown that has this kind of a service. So it's not like every building has this, right?
But this is the beginning.
Meaning if the argument is this is the only way you can do it, the evidence would prove the contrary, that every other building downtown manages to have a service, and they didn't have to do this for the.
Oh, that's because the power line on all the buildings downtown like that, not through the street. So everything feeds through the backside.
If you go down, depending where street
Showing
you're
has it on the side.
Yeah.
On the front, probably.
So
Sidewalk.
I think this is a
Good question, bro.
good question for the immediate issue, a good question for the zoning administrator, and further for planning, I think.
I think for the power company too.
And the power company too, yeah.
Inquiring minds wanna know.
Wanna know, but I don't think, yeah. But I think we have a long agenda. Thank you.
No, so I think,
Yeah.
Pretty
I think
interesting.
we all appreciate the building owners who've done such an incredible job on some of their buildings downtown. That's had a real positive impact on this town.
Yeah, downtown looks
Yeah.
Generally speaking.
Cool,
Yeah,
thanks.
thank you.
Yeah.
Welcome
All right,
to the
next.
planning commission. Is it planning commission?
Yeah,
Well, would the planning commission have made any difference in this case?
so the planning commission can, yeah, I believe, yes, they can make recommendations to the,
The zoning?
Well, they
They
make
do
recommendations to
the-
the town plan,
and,
Right.
yeah, and for us to adopt ordinances.
right, and policies like that.
Yeah,
Cool.
Yeah.
it's a good place for it to start the discussion.
You guys can get on with it.
All right,
Thank you very much.
next, town manager's report.
Oh, that's what I've been waiting for all
I
day.
know. Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks. You guys pretty much know what I've been doing anyway, I guess, for the most part. I just brought up a few things that are kind of interesting and still out there. We still continue to have health issues that I've been addressing and getting involved in. There's a couple of the fire marshals were visiting a building today after I went in and visited the building, and then the fire marshals decided they would come in and visit too, so we're getting a lot of activity right now. If you notice, there's some painting going on in town. One was Larry Hamill's old building. We got calls last Friday, somebody from Wheelock wanted to come shopping in Hardwick and was complaining that the lead dust would harm them if they came in, and they wanted it all stopped. And so they called Casey Friday 6 times, wouldn't listen to anything she had to say. Called the health department and talked to the lead specialist there, apparently didn't listen to much of what he had to say. funny thing about it, I've already been there, and I'm a lead certified person. I've taken the training in it, been a health officer for 8 years. And I looked at it and I said, they're doing a fine job. They had things encapsulated. They weren't scraping when these people were kind of flipping out. They weren't scraping paint, they were painting. But when they do remove paint, they do it wet, so they don't create dust. And they do it over a tarpaulin, and then they vacuum that up, and then they take the tarpaulin and they remove what's left, materials. That's the way they were doing it.
That's good.
And they thought that the whole sidewalk should have been encapsulated, and people should have been forced around it, and so on and so forth. But anyway, they didn't live here, but they created quite a bit of controversy for a couple days over it. And the company doing the work is lead certified too as well, so they knew what they were doing as well. So, and it was good. I mean, I was happy to go in and talk with them, and I was happy that they were doing it right, because I'm not happy when they're not doing it right. So anyway, these things continue. I haven't heard anything about the other guys are doing the other building there.
The beamless block is also being painted, but
I don't see any scraping going on. All I do is see.
Scraping, because it's been painted in the last probably 10 years ago when after the fire happened. So they're not scraping, they're just painting, and they're taking entirely too long, but whatever.
They've got about 10
They're
people
going
doing
pretty
it.
well.
Yeah, you'd think it would be going along at a big clip.
It's taken my house 30 years.
They told us a few days or asked about putting out lifting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too. I saw those two. I saw one lift and now there's two. But anyway, it's going to make everything look better. So I don't have a problem. I don't really feel like complaining for the work they're doing, because they're doing a good job getting it done. Looks better. Cemetery vandalism. Let's move on to something more positive. Well, that's not more positive. Cemetery vandalism. I talked with Karen Richardson the other day. There's a bunch of things I talked with her about, but she said that continues to be kids going into Main Street Cemetery and damaging stones and just causing trouble there. She did say that the police department has been more active down there, but she would just like people to be aware what's going on, and you see people in the cemetery at night running around, maybe let the police know. Because it's pretty sad, for people who put a lot of work into the stones and put work into their area, have so many damage at all.
So some of the cemetery, if this is happening at night, do you think?
I would assume so. I don't know. Could be during the day.
Cemeteries have, at least some of them have hours of operation, like they're closed at night, right? Like some of them have a little sign that says
Cemetery closed from dusk to dawn.
Right.
Yeah, I think the one on
The one on Bailey Hazen has that, I noticed the other day.
Main Street one does too, but the gate's open. It's not,
It's not fenced.
but yeah, it does say that that's.
So, if people see folks in the cemetery at night,
Right.
they, generally speaking, probably shouldn't be there.
Right.
So, let somebody know.
Right.
Somebody on that side over there.
So, my next subject is a mailbox, and when you leave tonight, just look up the street on
You
the
sent us a
sidewalk.
picture.
I sent everybody a picture. To me, it kind of looks ridiculous.
To me, it looks like it won't last through winter plowing.
Well, it's going to get moved. That's the whole plan. There's a mailbox that is located on Church Street.
In the sidewalk.
On the sidewalk in a milk can, because the person who lives there can't get a free post office box. And the postmaster said, we can deliver there, but we can't give you a free post office box because we can deliver there. So they're going to deliver there. And so it's kind of a...
Put a post office box in my yard then too, because
Yeah, me
I'd
too.
rather have my mail delivered.
Me too.
No, the issue is, can they deliver there? So,
Of course they
okay.
can.
So anyway, so of course, obviously I got dragged into this. I don't know why. It's not on my job duties, but anyway, so I talked to the postmaster about it. That's how I know the situation. I talked to the property owner. I talked to some neighbors. What the issue is right now is that the mailbox is in the middle of the sidewalk. You get it too much closer to the edge, somebody's going to hit it with their car at night, or somebody's going to knock it into the street. But anyway, the post office doesn't want it back. They want it near the road. So I don't know. I've talked to everybody. And I'm just gonna let the neighbors continue to harass the postal service about it, because the postal service told me they have a blanket easement to be in the rights of way of any road in the United States.
Well,
But do they have-
how about the, yeah.
Do we have a blanket easement to
Be in the sidewalk?
be in the sidewalk and violate ADA?
Well, that's the issue that's arising now, and I have no idea where that, if it goes further out, it's gonna tip out into the street. I suggested just moving it back near the telephone pole. Telephone pole's been there for years, hasn't caused any problems.
I wondered, by just setting into the street, that it's out of the general flow of traffic, there's no parking there. Be easy for the postman to, throw stuff in there, just set it off the edge of the sidewalk onto the street.
It's really narrow there, and people come flying around that
I think if they're willing
corner.
to deliver the mail, that they could step out of the car and put it in the box.
Anyway, yeah, those are good suggestions. Call the postmaster and ask her if she wants it in the street. I'm afraid somebody's gonna hit it with a car. Anyway, I had listed it, the mail must go through.
Yes.
Delinquent property taxes, we were at $85,000 in delinquent property taxes. The last day to make payments at the town manager's office is August 6th, by the way. Then properties will be sent to our attorney's office for tax sale. The tax sale is scheduled for October 5th.
It is best, sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
People, if you're out there and you haven't paid your taxes, you should definitely contact the town manager's office. They'll help you figure out how to get them
I
paid.
do want to note, we have half as many contracts this year as we did last year. Very few people are contacting for contracts.
People need to reach out, or you're gonna end up at tax sale.
Your house won't go to tax sale if you initiate a contract to pay your taxes up within the next like 6 or 8 months, and you continue to pay. If you don't pay, even with a contract, it's gonna go to tax sale eventually, but at least have people come in and talk to us about it. Water and sewer delinquencies have dropped by about $20,000 since our last report.
Oh, good.
And they're currently at $44,000. I do believe there's gonna be a bunch of disconnects occurring, or did they occur?
You already did. We
So-
actually didn't have to disconnect anybody, which was awesome.
So people who came in and paid?
Good.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Or
Good.
set up contracts, yeah.
Great.
So that's my report.
Awesome. The moral of the story is come in and talk to people in the town offices if you're behind on your town bills. Next, road foreman report. Tom Fadden, what's your report?
Let's see, we're still working on bridge renewal.
It's a lot of rock up there.
Oh yeah, we've spent probably, what did we figure out the other day cases? We were up to $12,000 so far on rock, plus what we've hauled the day before and today.
Yeah.
So we're getting up there, so by the time we're done, we'll probably be close to 17,000 probably in stone.
It's grant funded though, most of it, right?
Yes, we have a $28,000 grant to do that road, so, and I got a stockpile of stay mat that the guys haul back. So once we get that all done, we'll shape the road up, and we'll stay mat it from the bottom right to the top of the hill. So,
Nice.
So that road should be in pretty good shape. What's that?
You like an interstate, you said.
It is now. I mean, it don't matter whether there's potholes or not, they still do 90, so they complain about them, but they seem to fly right through them still, so, but anyways. Just noting on what we just said about the delinquent water and stuff, that we handed out what, 60 SMOD? We only had 3 that maybe we had to shut off, but they came in.
Yeah, 67, I think you said.
So we did that. The other thing, we've been up on Glenside installing some meter pits, and we had a place up there that we had a total mess. Took a couple days to figure out, because there was a clump of 5 water shut-offs in this one spot.
Oh, boy.
So we got that all straightened out. Now we're down to just 2 shut-offs there. One for the main there that runs back out towards Dean Mercier's. He ran 3 brand new lines out through to his place for both of all of his properties. So we got that all done with the meter pits in. Our John Deere loader is back. Of course, it went away here probably about a week or so ago. The turbo went in it.
Oh.
Of course, to get a mechanic on the road right now is about, yeah, you can't, because he said they were about 3 to 4 weeks out. So we had Gary Dimick ship it down there for us, so it was only down there for a week and we got that back. So we'll wait and see what that bill's gonna be like, so. Same thing, our new chassis is ready for our dump truck, but then again, there's the other problem, driver shortage, so we don't know when we're gonna get the chassis here.
You mean it's ready at a manufacturing?
It's ready at the manufacturing place, and so.
But not, it's not here.
Right.
And when it comes here, it still needs to
When it comes here, it's still gotta go get the body and stuff on. It's scheduled to go in, beginning of September, to have the body and stuff on. Yeah.
So there's still time for it to arrive?
Yeah, it is, but like you said, they've been waiting on dump trucks now for weeks to be delivered up here, so. Knock on wood, hopefully they'll throw ours to the front of the line. Same thing with meter pits, we're at a standstill with those. Same thing, supply. Copper, there's only a certain type that they can get right now, the inserts for the plastic pipes, that we have to use that, some houses, they run the plastic.
Yeah.
We have to put metal inserts in them so we can use the compression fittings. Sandboxes, you name it, everything is whenever. They don't know, we don't know. So, that's the name of the game right now. Besides that, we got guys taking a lot of time off and stuff, weeks and stuff. Pearlie's is gonna be going on vacation here next month. Spencer's gone on vacation next week. So hopefully when we finish that up, then we'll get back out on the grading and start hauling our gravel and stuff and go from there. And next thing we gotta do is put the sidewalks out to bid so we can start that project. Get that going. Church Street.
Oh, yeah.
Put the grant money on that,
Right.
so.
Forgot about that.
Hopefully do some more meter pits whenever we get parts.
The side of that backward sidewalk, crosswalk paint.
No idea. Haven't heard a thing, so. It's like our fire truck, it's red. We're not getting that now until October. It was supposed to be delivered Saturday.
Is it short of red paint?
Yeah. Between the red pigment, well, believe it or not, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
I mean, if you guys wanna do something different, order some different paint from somewhere else. I got 26 gallons coming, it's pretty close to, $1,200 worth of paint, so.
I like the white.
It is what it is.
I'm happy. Thank you. Next up is the police department report. Aaron Cochran, do tell.
Okay, for June, we had 196 total incidents. Wednesday showed out to be actually the busiest day, with 7 PM being the busiest time of the day, which actually, I went back and I looked from 2015 to 2019 in that block of years. I excluded 2020 because that was just a disaster for everything and everybody. Any angry, I don't know what it is, but yeah, that was just an interesting tidbit, but that was the busiest time of the day.
Getting home from work at 5 and having
yeah.
a few toddies, and then by 7 o'clock,
Yeah.
you're ready to go.
Yeah, could be.
So, in the incident report that we got in our packet, I don't know, I read it online. At the end, there's a summary, and it has what you're talking about, like the summary by weekday and
Yes.
hours.
Yep.
And at the very end, there's like a summary that looks to be, is there a summary for the month by hour at the very bottom? Or is that still a day? Is that like the last day?
If you're looking at the call volume analysis,
Yeah.
that is,
Oh, not the chart, but the last of the table, I think it was all the way, gave you the days of the week and the hours. I was just curious if it sounds like you were able to pull call data by hour.
yes, that's
For a longer time
that's on the
period.
analysis. So yes, you can do it by month, or you
Yeah.
can actually do it a block, and it'll give you an average
Okay,
of the
for that.
busiest time. and
Okay.
It blocks it in there,
All
as
right.
well as a day. They'll take the average day.
Yeah.
And it gets in on average. Of course, that can vary month by month. This
Yeah,
month happened
right.
to be Wednesday. Next month, it could be Friday.
Right.
So on and so forth, but yeah, over that 5-year,
Yeah.
15, 4 or 5 year period, Fridays at 7 o'clock was actually the average busiest day, busiest time over that period of time.
And can you get information on just hours, like call volume per hour regardless of the day?
Yeah,
When you
that's
did
actually, I think what you're looking for is actually in here.
I thought maybe it was, but I wasn't positive.
Yeah, so this is just for the month of June, but it
Yeah.
gives you Wednesdays, Fridays, all that in the hours. of the
Could you
call
share
volumes.
that, the data you pulled for the 15 through 19?
Yeah,
I'd be
I gotta do
interested.
it, I
If
gotta
it's
do it,
just
do it
summary.
again, but I can't, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep. Let's see, what else do we have? The roof at the public safety building, they've started that, actually moving right along on that pretty well. I don't expect it to be done this week, but probably, next week. They've got it, it's all stripped now. So they've got all the shingles off, the water and ice shield, I believe it is, I'm not a builder, but I believe that's what they put down. So that's all down, so that part's done, so I would assume they'll start shingling next week probably on that.
And same people are doing
Yes.
something over there.
Yeah,
Depot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
yeah,
And they're doing PD first?
yes,
Okay.
yeah. And they're, you know, great to work with, they're very nice and easy to work with, yeah.
Good.
Yep. Looks like they're, like, I'm not a builder, but it looks like they're doing a good job, so. Let's see here. The other thing to note, was they didn't find any major damage in any of the.
From leaking?
Yeah, from leaking, they didn't find any major damage on any of the plywood. I talked to them about that, and they said it was all in decent shape.
Awesome.
So,
Caught it in time.
hopefully, it was in time.
I heard there's a lot of hot air in that building, so.
It could be, it could be.
Keeps it dry.
So, yeah. So that was that. Also, this week, they put in the, concrete base out in front of the building for the memorial bench. So that's there as well. We're waiting on the bench, but, Lisa's mother has been in contact with me, and, that is ordered and it's just in process.
Great.
Getting done and engraved, et cetera, so.
Did you get rid of the tree, the dead tree?
The dead tree is gone.
Okay, good.
Mark took care of that, so the dead tree is gone. Yeah, and he did it right to the base so he can mow right over it, so cleaned it all up. Looks good. Looks better than a dead tree in the yard. So that's done. I've been working with Kenny to get the flagpole for the family as well, so to go with that bench, so. So that project is moving. We had hoped for the 4th of July, but that came and went, and, Granite Industry, I guess, is in the same boat as every other industry, just, so. Let's see, so last meeting that we had, Woodbury had, I told you, Woodbury had reached out to us. I did go to their meeting. I met with them. What they were looking for was hourly patrol. The sheriff's department isn't able to do the patrol as they don't have the manpower, cited that they didn't have the manpower to be able to do it. That's what they were looking for. Initially that's what they're looking for, and is an hourly speed patrol, not criminal enforcement. I talked about the difference in the, criminal enforcement, that you can't do that by the hour. That's not an hourly rate. You can go out and do some speed enforcement, et cetera, as an hourly rate, but one criminal case could obviously use up hundreds of hours. And so they would still rely on the state police. So initially, I would be in favor of that, and was at the time. I'm not so much in the favor of it now, as I just kind of hang on to that for a second. And we did have an officer, one of our full-time officers today, did submit his resignation, and will be going to Stowe Police Department. So that puts us down to 3 full-time officers, and our dispatcher is filling in as a full-time officer right now, he's also certified, so that only gives us 4 full-time officers.
Is that counting you or not counting you?
Not counting me.
Okay.
So at this point in time, my recommendation at this point in time is that we don't have the manpower to do this.
How many part-time folks do you have right now on your
2, and
roster?
we're hoping you'll
One on
approve a
here.
third one. Yeah.
Okay.
That certainly, you know, and with that, 2 wouldn't have been such a big deal initially, but with having 2 out on military orders, that makes 4 down 4 officers. So, and we obviously with military, we have to save their spot, that's a guaranteed spot, et cetera. So, we can't hire for that position. We could temporarily fill it, but we can't hire it. Their spot is reserved, so. But that does, in a small police department like ours, make a huge impact. So yeah, so initially I was gonna come to you and present what Woodbury had said and, you know, make the recommendation that maybe we take a look at it a little further, and at this point, I just don't see how we could do it. I think our focus is, at this point, is gonna have to be on trying to keep enough people to, you know, to do Hardwick.
Isn't that later in the agenda?
Yes.
Yeah, and we can talk about that, you know, a little later on, but yeah, so that's what I had out of Woodbury. The last thing that I have is fireworks permitting. So I know we're probably not gonna make a decision on that tonight either, but I do wanna throw it out onto the table. We did not sign off on any fireworks permits for the 4th of July this year because of the new Supreme Court ruling of that, and it's not clear, it's as clear as the muddiest mud that I've seen as to how that process is supposed to go forward. And so I'm not comfortable signing off on a permit until the town decides what their process is gonna be for approving a permit.
Well, the ruling said that it's either the fire chief or the select board makes a decision, and you have to have 15 days before you're gonna use them.
Right, and it has to be, you're supposed to visit the site, make sure they have a catchment area, there's a whole bunch in it.
It's for safety reasons.
Yeah,
Well, it makes sense for this, for safety reasons. It doesn't quite make sense to put the onus on the town to do site inspections, but
so I didn't issue any for the 4th of July, so there was no onus on the town.
But Tom can
in
do it.
in that.
Oh, Tom has plenty of time to
Yeah.
do that.
I think just checking, see if you're with us.
I was.
Yeah,
Let 'em fly.
I think it puts
Let 'em go.
a lot on the fire chief too, to go out and
Yeah.
do those inspections, et cetera.
Right.
So I've held off, and I'm not gonna be signing any until
So we have
the
to
town
figure-
decides,
Well,
looks into
hopefully
it and decides how they wanna do it.
fireworks season is at a lull for a little while.
It should be at a lull, but we do get them periodically throughout the year
Right.
for different,
Yeah.
you know, graduations, birthdays, et cetera, et cetera. So, I don't think it's something we wanna put off until closer to next 4th of July. I do think that it's something we should look into and kind of take a direction.
Probably by then, the Vermont League of Cities and Towns will have some policy.
Hopefully, the ruling and the league put out stuff just prior to the 4th of July, so it couldn't have been at a worse time, really, for that to come out, but, yeah,
Maybe we should add it to an agenda item and then for
Next year?
a few meetings from now.
I felt that without more direction as to or policy as to the town wants to handle fireworks permits, I felt that it really put the town in a much larger liability state, considering what the ruling was and what they wanted to have done, so.
Okay.
So it's something to, yeah, you know, you decide where you wanna go, what you wanna do with that, but
All right,
I wanted to bring it up.
all right.
And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just have a really quick question, Erin. I know we're
No,
tight
go for
agenda,
it.
but it does seem like, well, from John's report and then also from various other things we've heard in town, that vandalism is on an up. And there's been reports of the community gardens and cemetery, and I know that the porta potties all throughout town have been knocked over.
Oh, really?
I definitely at Macville, and then also at the Hardwick on the fields there, and so
geez.
it's just something to,
Yeah, and we actually talked to the Center for Ag today. you know, one of the things that's important, I know they encourage people to contact them. If anybody saw or knew of, you know, who was doing the vandalism there, but it's really important to contact us because we need to know when this is happening and when people are seeing and who they're seeing, et cetera. And we're not always getting those calls until a long time after, you know, after the damage has already been done. You know, if people are seeing somebody that looks suspicious in the area, we're just a phone call away and we can run down and, you know, make a presence. And but there's not a lot we can do afterwards if we don't have any information. So it is important too. You know, we've done this. We do patrols to the cemeteries now, and you know, we're doing all of that. But obviously, yeah, you know, we're not there.
It just seems like an increase this summer.
Yeah.
Maybe some cameras will help in.
Well, and I think to keep in mind, last summer, everybody was cooped up and locked up, and this summer is a little more free. So we're seeing more people out and a little more mischief maybe going on, and so yeah, they soak the fountain out here too. So yeah.
Yeah, it's an every year thing.
Yeah. That's relatively benign.
Oh, yeah. Let the bubbles
It is,
fly.
it is, but it's just an example of, you know, a little more mischief going on, more people out and about, so.
All right, so somebody will have to remind us about the fireworks thing at some other date.
Thanks, Casey.
Find a low,
Find a lull.
lull, yes.
When you want to think about exploding things. All right, thank you, Aaron. Any other questions for Aaron? Before we move on? So next up is Hardwick Electric Department. We have Nat, it says given by Mike Sullivan, but he looks a lot like Nat Smith tonight. So if you have a brief report for us, that would be welcome.
So the Craftsbury Academy matter has been brought to closure. The Public Utility Commission completed an investigation, and Hardwick will accept Craftsbury's decision to repay all the monies over about 10 years in accordance to the PUC ruling. Hardwick Electric closed on the purchase of a large transmission line from Green Mountain Power at the end of June. This will save about $160,000 a year, pay for itself in about 2 years. It's a good deal. Vulcan Hydro has been generating energy above budget, but it's as usual got to shut down for the summer and face some repairs, including work on a surge tower, which apparently was built in about 1937 and hasn't been touched. The H11 solar at the end of Billings Road is scheduled to come online in, I think, the first week of August. It really looks huge. Most recent financials show year-to-date revenues up 11% and expenses up 0.6%. HED has had office staff training this week. A couple of trainers have come in from Oklahoma and Nevada. Hardwick Electric crews have been working on a new feeder through the village, which will provide significant flexibility. So if a line goes down, they can close this and open that and increase the chances of getting service very quickly. So that's that part. I also wanted to say that both Lincoln and I were intending to be here and stay through your 8 o'clock discussion about appointments to the Board of Commissioners for Hardwick Electric. We're both prepared to stay, and I can call and then have her come back, but Casey has said we really don't need to come at 8 o'clock. But I can call her and she can come, and I would be willing to stay. So.
I think we're probably good.
Yeah.
I don't think we need you to question, we don't, right? Does the board generally agree we don't need to grill them tonight? We have 2 applicants and we know them both.
No grilling tonight.
Okay. So, thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thanks a lot for the report, Nat.
Thank you, Eric.
All right. Next, our revised item number 1 is select board to review and consider appointment of part-time police officer Joseph, is it Rossi or Rossi? Rossi, thank you. And you are he?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And
So I've done, I've done all of Joe's background, obviously, so it would be my recommendation, especially in the state that we're in right now with personnel. But Joe has been a police officer. He's a retired Marine. Spent several years doing that. So I know Marines never retire, but that's what. So yeah, Joe's background looks great and very extensive background. So I'll leave, if anybody, I asked Joe to come in tonight. We haven't been able to do that with some of our applicants in the past, but Joe was able to come in tonight. So I asked him to do that, and if anybody had any questions or wanted to meet him. And
Where did you work in policing before?
I was in Caledonia County Sheriff's for 5 years. Before that, I was immigration for 7. Before that, I was with the Marine Corps for 20.
Immigration in Vermont or
Yes.
elsewhere? Yes.
Don't happen to live in Hardwick, do you?
No, I live in Coventry, believe it or not. My own personal preference is I don't work in my county. Because I have a family.
So Coventry is pretty close to us, so that's good.
Any other questions for Joe or Aaron? So we could have, yes, thank you. So we need- So I'm gonna read off an appointment, or actually first, how about a motion to appoint Joseph Rossi as police officer in Hardwick?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that's everybody, motion carries. And so this is appointment, know all persons by these presents that we, the undersigned select board and town manager of the town of Hardwick, Vermont, hereby appoint Joseph Rossi, police officer for said town under Title 24, Section 1931 VSA, with all the powers granted under this section and Title 24, and is dated today. So we all need to sign 2 copies. Right? 2 originals? Okay. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate you coming to the meeting and joining our force.
Joe just has to sign it once everybody else gets done.
Yep. So just keep it.
Oh, you did it? Oh, okay, all right.
Because I'm next on the agenda, so if I let him go when he's done.
There you go, you're all set.
Sorry, the next thing was, next item is bond documents, signing bond documents for the library bond. And, yeah, so that is all prepared by the
Yes.
attorneys.
So this is all from Paul Giuliani, our
Yeah.
bond attorney. And all I need from you folks tonight to finish this up is I need a motion to sign the resolution and certificate of general obligation for the Judavine Library expansion bond.
So moved. Do we need to repeat that?
Second.
You did it so well.
Did you say second, Wiz? So Wiz has a second. Any discussion on the library bond? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? I think that was everyone anyway. Motion carries.
There are
So,
several spots that need to be signed. They can wait in for a little while if you want to.
okay. Great, I'll sign as we go. I'll do that while so the next item is Alberta Miller giving us the FY22 tax rate. And our grand list went up.
Our grand list made a very nice jump this year, yes.
What is it? Well, she said it went up by a certain number.
Hold on just a second, because I can never remember my zeros without looking into this. Wait, give me 2 seconds.
I'm guessing 210. 210 million.
Nope. 191 million. You were close, John.
Oh, wishful thinking.
Next year.
So yeah, so that's about a $3.2 million increase over last year's grand list, which is really awesome. So based on that, it looks like our municipal tax rate increase is 0.134, which means that for every $100,000 of assessed value, your taxes will be $13.40 more than they were last year. We also saw that the local agreement went down this year. The local agreement is all of the voted exemptions that we do, but we still have to pay the school their taxes. So that went from 0.107 to 0.104. Not a huge deal, but every little bit helps. The other thing that was pretty surprising is that our homestead education rate decreased this year. We actually went down $33 per $100,000 of assessed value. So that was a surprise, but a welcomed one. And the non-residential education tax actually made a small increase, but it's $4.40 per $100,000, which is still very, very good for this year.
And the rate, the non-homestead rate is still a little below the homestead rate, I think, right?
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit now, though. They're much closer together than they were. The last couple of years, we've seen quite an increase in the residential and a decrease in the non-residential.
Right, right.
So what we are talking about doing, or what I'm proposing for you to set for a tax rate tonight, the municipal rate of 1.2988 plus the local agreement would make it the municipal rate of 1.3092.
I'm not on the right page. I'm on the breakdown page. Oh, here we go. Now I'm with you. All right,
And if, yeah,
got it.
Did I?
I think so, yeah.
So, the thing about the setting the tax rate is that it's something that the select board has to do, but we really don't have any leeway in it because what the voters voted on our budget at town meeting, and part of that motion that was approved is it says, and set a tax rate to raise the same. So basically, we need to set the tax rate to raise the amount that was approved for the budget. So supposing Alberta's calculations are correct,
let's hope so, right?
yeah, we shouldn't have any reason to really, do anything other than approve the rate as presented.
You want a motion?
I would love a motion.
I move that we set a tax rate of 1.3092.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Alberta. And it's nice that it's pretty good news. Yeah.
It was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, you never know what the grand list is gonna do, or what the state's gonna do. All right, so, where are we? Item number 2 is, for which I think many people are probably here, select board to consider additional loan guarantee for the library expansion project. It says Jody Lou Smith presenting. Are you expecting that?
I saw that on there, and
Well, like talking is like that, like not that you would have a formal presentation, but then.
Oh,
you have budget numbers, though, that you were going to present, I thought, first. I do have those in
in our packet. Make sure I'm on the right page.
It's right off of my textbook.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
So,
So what this outlines is the current funding sources that are basically committed at this point as of earlier this week. I know I had sent out the announcement that Jody shared with us about the Leahy earmark recommendation. At this point, it is a recommendation, which is amazing. It's just not an official award until maybe October or so. So I threw that in there, but again, that's not a guaranteed amount at this point in time.
Casey,
Yes.
what is the level of uncertainty about getting that?
She would know better.
Has to do with the federal budget.
yes, it does.
So that's always uncertain to a certain extent.
As much as that, so I had a conversation about it with Diane Derby at Senator Leahy's office. She said, you've gotten through the hard part by getting selected. There were 350 applicants. She said, it's not a done deal. It is hopeful because he is chair of the Appropriations Committee, but we think it will go through as one big package, and it could just hang up around budget squabbles.
Congress and a budget squabble?
Never. So it's likely, it's not a done deal. That's where it's at.
And the timing that we've heard on the Yellow Barn project, which also has been recommended for an appropriation, which is actually kind of incredible. We have two projects that are, like a mile apart or something in the town of Hardwick that have both been recommended for earmarks. But the timing, what we heard in that meeting was echoed what Jody's saying, but the timing was more December. So I was thinking it was end of the government fiscal year, but it's the end of the calendar year.
So it doesn't necessarily, that piece of it doesn't necessarily change too much because if we do start building this summer, our end date is April, so the bills aren't.
So it shows up in January, it's welcome.
Right.
It's not too late.
It may, but the issue, there's two issues. One is that it may still be slow to get here, it has to go through the USDA. So there may be a window where we need a bridge loan of some sort that gets us through. The other reason that this funding gap has gotten larger is that the USDA has required that we put in a 10% contingency of $200,000. We had a 5% contingency on the original budget for the original project, but when the bids came in, so many hundreds of thousands above, it kind of ate up that contingency. Hello. Hi. It also, there's many ways you can look at budgets. The other piece of it is because the original budget is now a couple years old, and because it was made before we had government funding, the requirement for consultants to do this piece of that project and the consultant for the environmental assessment and the consultant for the historical preservation is just added to the soft costs. So that's one of the reasons that, what we had put aside for construction, part of that got eaten up with some of the soft costs ahead of time. However, we do think that, Plan A is the earmark funds will come through and we will be in the black for it. It's just not a guarantee. So it's a big ask, but we are, as I said in the other materials I sent you, there are some possibilities for Plan B and Plan C if we don't get the earmark funds or if they're cut. Do you know if there's a potential for them to get just reduced?
I haven't heard. I don't know how that works. Do you? I would imagine that there would be, but I don't really know how the process works.
So, essentially, we have been directed to ask for a request to have the town back the gap of, and what number did you end up with on your paper there? I had 475.
I have 493.
I think,
But that's total, I mean, the town already committed the part of it, so it's an additional, when they went up to the 2 million on the other. 244, 436 over last time.
And so, the reason that it's important to have this, extra 10% contingency somehow accounted for now or appropriate now is because you can't get a notice to proceed from the USDA until you have that in place.
yes.
And if you don't have the notice to proceed and you start building, then none of your costs are eligible for reimbursement from that grant.
And the amount of the USDA grant is
157.
However, they earmark funds will potentially come through their office too. And
I didn't remember, did you do that applying for the AARP
I
thing?
did, we didn't get it.
Oh, okay, because I just saw that they announced it
Yeah,
on
no,
July
they had-
28th, but
they
they
had-
told you no.
They told us.
Okay.
Did not the building contract already get signed?
It is, and there's so many pounds of revision with, the final one has, the notice to proceed on the contract has not been signed. USDA's been holding out for, they have to sign off on the final version.
So the contract with Red Loaf.
The contract with Red Loaf.
So even though last time we did allocate in order to get that going, it's not fully done yet. So, yeah, that was a question I had too, is what position are we in with the contractor?
So the contractor, the last information I had is that the contractor, given all these delays, is expected to start on August 2nd. They would have 247 days, which takes them now to mid-April.
Did not the cost of the materials have a finite period of time in which they were eligible for the
It
contract?
was a 60-day, they've been patient. We're past the 60 days, essentially. So if we do not get the notice to proceed and move forward, we will pretty much have forfeited this bid. We would rebid, we would have to rebid. Unless they wanted to hold out and wait to see if earmark funds came through, but given how late in the fall that's likely to be, chances are we would have to rebid.
Have any conversations occurred with Red Loaf indicating whether they would be interested in that or not?
In rebidding? No, we have not had those conversations.
Or even holding out for the contracted price?
Yeah, we haven't had those we have not had those conversations with them. I think it would be the next step if that's where we're at. We don't, but I think there would be, I think there's pros and cons, either way. That if we had to rebid, the cost, there may be a reduction in costs. Construction costs go down, unknown, that's an unknown. There will be additional costs around, we would need more funding for the architect in the design phase because he's been working for free for the better part of a month because USDA has gone through so many rounds of review that he's pretty much said, I'm not doing any more negotiating until I increase my contract. And there is a potential that we have a $200,000 donation that came with the caveat that we start building this year. Whether that donor would, I don't know, Lisa, you've spoken to that donor?
Well, he and his wife are of an age that they want to see it built, and he grew up on West Church Street. His name, he wants to have his name and his wife's name on part of the project, and $200,000 is a really lot of money. So I will talk to him if we don't go ahead, and hopefully they'll stay in if we're able to do it next year, but,
Can you ask a quick question about that? When they say built, does that mean started or?
Yeah,
Okay.
started.
Because that would be
Finished, not started, yeah.
So something has to be started this year for them to,
He gave us the money, they actually gave us a check, so we have the money, but we have to turn the money back. If he said, he and his wife said, you're not starting this year, give me my money back. I really can't tell, because we just can't.
and is that reflected in this budget, in this funding source, that $200,000?
Yes.
So that's a part of the building fund?
Yes.
Okay.
There is a few other funds still that haven't transferred, is that correct?
Yeah, there's a few, but it's been accounted for in our.
Okay.
So last time you had, when we talked about covering the approximately 250,000 shortfall, there was an expectation of fundraising on behalf of the library to get that, so the town wouldn't actually be holding that. What's the status on fundraising? Are there pledges or anything?
Well, we brought in another 65,000 this spring. Not since we talked to you. We brought in another 40-ish since we talked to you. But we essentially feel like we have asked our donors multiple times, and that's pretty much tapped out for the moment. So additional funds were earmark funding being applied for at the time.
The earmark funding would make the whole project work.
The whole project work, right?
Yep.
And there's, the other possible funding is this capital projects fund that I sent you the PDF explaining what that is, and it's a fund it was recommended to me by a staff person at Bernie Sanders' office. That's how I learned about it. It seems fitting, as little as you can learn about it, it seems fitting, but it's by application, and the application hasn't opened yet. So, coronavirus, especially in rural America and low and moderate income communities, helping to ensure that all communities have access to the high-quality, modern infrastructure needed to thrive, including internet access. Internet access, not structure.
Right,
Yes.
the library as well.
Yes, we do access well. That's the other piece that's more subjective, is whether, broadband infrastructure also covers the library, because the library gives access to so many people who don't have it at home, either because it's not yet there to their door, but even if it was to their door, couldn't afford it, or didn't use it enough to want to pay for it and use the library. And those, we already have all the people who sit outside and use the Wi-Fi. When we have an expanded building and we have space for teens to do their homework, and we have space for adults to come in and work, we expect the internet usage to just really increase. So it's access for people who don't have.
Part of that too, though, is I had gone to the Vermont Public Service Board statistics on the type of internet that people have in Hardwick and Caledonia County and Orleans County. And there's a lot of people that have it, but the megabytes per second is very low for the majority of people. So if you're wanting actual broadband, it's very minor amount of people that actually can access. That's why we have so many people doing the Wi-Fi, because they just come, download a document, and go home again. And a lot of people come to use printing, because a lot of people don't have printers at home. So we do lots of government documents for people, and yeah.
I have a few questions.
Go
I don't
ahead.
know if there's anything else in the budget, Jody, that you want to talk about, because that's kind of where we started. I guess one of my questions is and I apologize if I missed it in the documents that you sent, what the deadline for having the contingency by is. I assume as soon as possible, but I don't.
Yes. We would appreciate a vote tonight.
But do they have a hard deadline for?
No, essentially we're kind of on hold.
So they won't, so the USDA won't issue a notice to proceed until the contingency is met. And without that notice to proceed, then the funds that get spent are not
Right, so until
eligible for
they have that, you
reimbursement.
can't go forward. I totally understand that.
And they're not signing that.
And then I also understand the jump in the contingency percentage based on the jump in the overall budget cost. Has there been conversations with USDA about a grace period, because it's a pretty big, it's asking a lot more of the town. So have there been conversations with USDA about that?
Many conversations with the USDA.
And they're not budging?
They're not really budging, no. They're kind of, John, you spoke to them most recently, this week, about,
Yeah, I'm trying to recall, it was quite a long conversation. I did a lot of listening. No, they're not they're not gonna budge on that because those are their requirements. I checked with other USDA offices that I'm familiar with and people that I know, and they weren't lined up with the same requirements. So I started asking those questions and they were like, well, we do more construction than they do. And because of that, our numbers are bigger and we have to have those contingencies covered. So they were pretty much, the way I took it was we have to get this done.
So my other question is, compared to a lot of the other fundraising that you've done, the USDA grant is relatively small. It's a huge funder. It looks really good for the town and for the project. But it's also, I mean, we've already committed more than the amount that they're giving the project. So I guess my other question is have the library trustees thought about maybe not using USDA as a funder so that way you can move on with your project, or is it too complicated at this point?
it's an option. We've discussed it. We don't have consensus around that. Certainly, there are people who feel uncomfortable going forward without their backing. There's a possibility that losing their backing would also make, we essentially can't go forward without the earmark funding, and that also has to go through their office, so. Yeah. So burning that bridge to some extent doesn't necessarily serve us well. I am going to ask that we maybe have another way to access those funds, but I don't expect there'll be much.
Is there a contingency plan for if the earmark from Senator Leahy's office falls apart?
Yes, so that's what is in my notes here. Contingency, so of this 400, whether it's 75 or 93, whatever this big number is, 200,000 of it is contingency. Of that, we expect to spend a portion, but not all of it. So I don't expect that number to be actually as big as the 600,000. Of course, I'm guesstimating. So the two, Plan B and Plan C, as I forward with some documents, is that there is more broadband infrastructure money coming, for which the guidance from the U.S. Treasury has become a little more flexible around the town being able to decide how it wants to spend money earmarked for broadband. And whether you're holding to the semantic position of infrastructure, like wires, versus broadband access, or having free broadband access in town, that's a subjective discussion. So there is potential there for covering if we don't get earmark funds. Plan C is this, that we are applying for this capital projects fund, which so far seems like a good fit, and I don't know what the numbers would be. So it's still, there's still risk, yes. Those are our plans for how we would cover the gap if the earmark funding didn't come through, but we're not guaranteed.
And the broadband infrastructure money is the ARPA, you're referring to the ARPA?
Well, I'm referring to ARPA that's come through already, but then there's the infrastructure bills that are just in the Senate now. There's two infrastructure bills that both also cover broadband. And will likely have similar guidance, which at this point is allowing for more latitude in how those funds are applied, as long as they're applied toward broadband expansion.
Well, just to follow up to that, currently we're expecting about 280,000 in ARPA funds total to the town of Hardwick, is that correct? Roughly? It's
There's two different pools of
There's
money.
two.
292, but split over 2 years, I think.
290, okay, so 300-ish split over 2 years, for which there are a bunch of allowable things to spend it on, and one of them is the broadband infrastructure.
I know you mentioned this, Jody, and you mentioned this at the previous meeting. I understand that the cost of construction was very, very poor timing for the project, and you've already made cuts to it, but is there anything that could be pushed until after the Leahy earmark? So that way we have a little more, there's less of a gap, or is it really?
It's not, we've pushed, we've value engineered, we've taken out everything we really can take out, and every piece of that also has to go through USDA review and historic preservation review, and so it isn't an option really at this point.
Yeah, taking part of the budget and pushing it out until after we know doesn't help, because USDA is basing their decision on the entire budget. It doesn't matter where in the budget that falls.
Well, and have you considered the possibility of putting off some of the work until prices of raw materials come down?
Well, that is essentially, once we start under USDA, with the USDA calling the shots, because we are taking their money, you're set to a time frame. You can't just extend the time frame. So we would probably hold. We would not build this year. We would rebid and go through it again.
So what is the USDA timeline?
Their timeline is 247 days from the notice to proceed.
To begin construction?
No, to finish construction.
So, can I just ask, because my math is not great, so we've already approved the 2 million guarantee. So what they need at this point is 49,388 more? Or am I reading that
No,
wrong?
the project, 244.
244, 236. Oh, for there's a copy of those.
I would hate to see this not happen. You know, that we are into it this far. It is so critically needed. Am I right that if we pass this, you guys are going to continue to fundraise until you make it?
We will do the very best we can.
You're exhausted, your daughter is exhausted, but you know, next year's another year. And there's a whole nother RMD season out there that, you know, if you just focus on the building, and when it's a go back and to finish it, you're nodding your head very enthusiastically, like.
I agree with you. I totally agree. Then we can get the building going and then reach out again to the donors.
Right.
It needs to have some time, yeah.
Yeah, but you've got very generous donors who say we want to see it happen. You've got this government at USDA saying you can't do it until you get this. I would hate to have the select board be the reason that this whole thing falls apart.
Well, and it's also really important, like, you can leverage the visual, the action of having that thing started. And if it doesn't start, you can't leverage it. I mean, maybe the best decision for the townhouse years ago was to go ahead and paint the interior. Even though we hadn't dealt with all the other more priority items on the list, it helped us tremendously to raise more money for other stuff because people saw it and they wanted to be there and it became, so it got energized.
Yeah, I would just agree. I fully, personally agree with the project and think that it should absolutely move forward. I am mainly concerned that we're committing a lot of money that we don't know where it's coming from if we don't get that earmark funding. And we've also committed $500,000 in the bond, so it's a really big ask for the town. I believe in the project, but it's also a lot to commit to. And you've already proven time and time again how amazing you are at fundraising, but it's also been a lot of fundraising. And so it's hard, you've gotten so many grants and you've talked to so many donors that it is, there's a point where it's hard to keep going. My best
guess is that we would get to the end, if we got to the end, if the earmark didn't come through, we would have raised some other funds, and we would still, if we didn't have the earmark, we would have some couple hundred to 300 that we would still be looking to fill, and we would still be raising that money.
I guess I would feel better about it too, if from the town side, if we were able to say this $493,000 total that we're committing, 280 of it is potentially coming from the ARPA funding, 200 of it is potentially coming from the general fund, just because, so we know if that happened, where that money would be coming from. Because we kind of threw at the last meeting, we threw around this idea of COVID funds. We also have lots and lots of other projects, so it's a little nebulous, I feel like, from our budget to be able to say we can offer this, because basically we're committing to providing an additional $500,000. I just don't know where that's coming from. So maybe that's a conversation we need to have.
So I share I echo nearly everything you just said. Like, I really want to see the library move forward. I feel like last time you came to us, we went way out on a limb to a point where I was teetering on the edge of being comfortable with it because it was an awful lot of money, but on the other hand, it was going to get the project through, and it seemed feasible that money could materialize within a year. Now I'm feeling like though I still really want the project to go forward, what we're looking at asking the town to cover here is nearly the bond amount again. Like, it's almost that much more money, and I guess I'm feeling a little uncomfortable committing the town potentially to twice what they voted for on a bond vote. I guess.
What does our fund balance look like?
800?
832 maybe, 828.
Of course, and then of course we already committed 200,000 to the pedestrian bridge from that.
We did.
So it's,
We have some major town garage things looming and many other, there's a lot of earmarks for that.
We do. Yeah, we could spend an awful lot of money if we had it.
And is there no reason why, so the bond that we've already committed can't also be the contingency?
No, it's in the budget already, right?
Yeah.
So it's already in the list of sources, and then, I think the other thing about the contingency is, while 10% is, it seems to me like a large contingency, but it's, but you should probably have a contingency. right? So,
Definitely, yes.
yeah,
But like I was saying, we'll spend a portion of it. We won't
right.
actually spend,
Probably not,
probably won't
because that's
spend
a
that whole
lot, the
amount.
10%.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a lot of like adjustments for unexpected
Right, it's
issues.
a lot of.
You expect some, but probably not that much.
And we've already had a lot of unexpected soft cost adjustments, so there isn't as many things left to go wrong, although plenty
They
will
haven't
go
started,
wrong.
they haven't started
They haven't
digging.
started building, yes, when they start digging, I'm sure things will go
So
wrong.
what was the original contingency that
It was,
USDA had indicated?
well, they hadn't gotten involved in specifying it. We had the one that the architect put into the original budget.
And that was 5%,
It was
right?
5%.
So, and then all of a sudden the USDA dropped the 10% number on you?
Yeah, all true stuff.
Ross has been patiently waiting to say something.
I want to re-emphasize what Sherry said. Number one, if the project doesn't go forward, fundraising becomes, public and private, becomes very difficult. If the project goes forward, and as Sherry said, people see it, it makes it much easier to fundraise. And we, as a trustee, as a town, taxpayer, we have to have some faith that that's going to come to fruition. We'd have almost a whole year to fundraise once the shovels start digging to come up with money that's going to be needed at the worst case scenario. If the project does not start because the USDA won't sign off on it, and then we find out in September or whenever that we get the earmark from Leahy, from Congress, we're not going to be able to start in November. The ground's going to be frozen. And so just the complications of getting going again are going to be very difficult. And another concern I have, besides just fundraising is easier when you have a tangible project that you're looking at, is just the credibility with voters in town. I mean, this whole library project has been going on for 10 years in previous words, something like that. And so the voters came through and they said, yeah, let's do it. And if we all of a sudden say, well, we're not going to do it, the reasons I don't think are going to fly with the voters. It's just like, yeah, there it goes again. You know, it's a screw up and whatever, and it doesn't happen. And it's beyond our control because we can't make the USDA do something that it can't do from its own regulations or whatever. And my view is, you know, let's get the project started. We're going to be continuing to fundraise. People in town are going to see it. Yeah, we're finally getting involved in this library project, and others, public and private, are going to see it. And I'm confident that we will be successful with regard to fundraising between now and next April, when the project is to be completed.
So let me spin it around and say, what's the downside of starting construction in April instead of starting construction in August?
I mean, I've already had people ask me, what's this thing going to look like? You know, they see the senior center's been torn down, there's a hole in the ground. What's it going to look like? What's going to happen? You know, I think back to where the partnership block is now, when that building burned, there was a pile of rubble there for almost 2 years, I think. And you know, what's the downside? I think the downside is seeing the project not get started. Just seeing that pile of rubble down there on Main Street for 2 years before they started to build that, it was just an eyesore for the town. And so having a hole in the ground across the street is just going to sit there empty. Nothing's happening. And we've been talking to people about, yeah, we're going to get this new addition for the library. Well, to start. So I think there's just in public perception, there's a real question of credibility and confidence that the town voters, the citizens of the town, are going to have. It's like, okay.
So, but I'll say that the voters have already voted, they've already approved the bond, we just signed the paperwork. That is pretty solid. The appropriation, should it come through in December and then ultimately percolate down to USDA in early spring, we would hope, and you could start in the spring, like, so the downsides of that I can see are that you're probably gonna have to rebid unless, I mean, Bread Loaf, I mean, conceivably could stay in, but it seems like they probably wouldn't. So there's cost. You hope the cost would go down a little even.
And if they don't, and if they don't.
If costs went up, there's a risk.
Which is it's either way. It could be either way. There's no guarantee it's going to go down, there's no guarantee it's going to go up. So that's just yet another big question.
Starting in spring still puts us at risk of losing that 200,000 donation as well. So we could still see costs stay the same or rise, as well as losing some of the funding.
But in spring, it'd be pretty solid on your funding.
I just have another logistical question, and again, I apologize if I missed it. There's a lot of information. So Jody, you mentioned that, so typically when you get a USDA award, you have 2 years to, is that, so when is the deadline to starting the project? You basically have 8 months to build it, which is also timing-wise a little bit tricky since 4 to 5 of the months are during the winter already, as Ross said. So if you have 8 months, is it the end of 2022 that you have to have the project finished?
It's actually not USDA for once.
Oh, okay.
The problem on that, it's the VCDP $100,000.
Okay.
They want you to start building in 6 months, and we're already past our 6 months on them. We got that award last summer in July, so we're at a year now.
But you're also not alone.
We're not alone.
In that boat with them, so they have awarded other projects too that have not yet gone to construction, largely because of COVID interference.
So, yes.
And I bet they wouldn't take it away, but I don't know that.
Jody, what is the motion you want us to make?
Motion that I have written down is motion to approve backing the library expansion for a gap of $493,000 until other funds become available. It's the total gap, but we could also do it as the difference. The total budget.
So it's a 249,380 number. Or
That's
2 million.
what we've
Yeah.
Right.
It was
We've
244,436, right, Casey?
We're already in for backing 2 million. And now it needs to go up another 500,000.
So
Another-
the addition is not, yes, so
Another quarter.
the budget is at 2.37 million, but we've already, including soft costs, of which we've already paid for 126,000. I don't have your budget numbers in front of me. So,
They're in the packet.
are they in the packet?
Just cost the tax rate and go.
Sort of near the middle on the back side of the page. Looks like.
Oh, yeah, here we go. So, the shortfall is so the total budget is the 224,980.
Yeah. I would like to move that we back the library for $2,249,388.
I'll second it.
More discussion? I'm second guessing that we worded it that way, but
Yeah, was that the motion, was it 10% of the budget that should have been there?
It's the amount that's on here.
Yeah, so I think you can do it either way.
It's just, it reads a little bit, Liz, like we're backing,
Right.
that we have a contingency of $2 million.
Somebody reading the minutes is gonna think that.
So maybe
we're
it should be
giving
the 244, 436.
so I misled you. Do you want to withdraw your motion?
No, I
Start
was
again?
to amend my motion.
Amend, okay.
Right, to the 493,824.
I think it's
No.
249,388.
Yeah,
Okay, talk me down.
Because you already committed a previous meeting.
yeah, so an
Okay,
additional, we're
For
an
an additional
additional.
249,388.
Yeah, that's what you
So
said the first time.
that's the amendment. That's not quite the same. So are you seconding the amendment?
I am, but
All in favor of amending the motion to just...
correct.
Yes, we have to vote on amending the motion. So, everybody in favor of amending the motion to just the difference, which is the 249,388, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. So okay, so the motion is now amended, and the motion on to vote on covering the additional shortfall, which is 249,388. And do we have additional discussion, or are people ready? All in favor of covering the additional shortfall, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Nay. The nays have it.
Can I just make one more comment?
You may.
I think, and maybe we can have a special meeting about this. My vote would have been different if I knew where the money was coming from the town. So it's possible, I don't know if it's a question for John and Casey, I know you've done a lot of work on this budget already.
So if you could see where the money could come
If I
from,
could see where it was from, it would be very different.
so that'd be the third
And
vote.
it's a guarantee versus money spent it's a guarantee. Right?
Yeah.
That we're not committing to spending that money unless they utterly fail to get it.
Correct.
All right.
I mean, it won't be something we're gonna drag out, and we're gonna have to tell folks. Okay,
Sorry.
that's okay. Thank you for having a thoughtful discussion.
I'm sorry USDA has been,
Yeah, I'm looking forward to a whole other year with them. Haley, what did you say?
no, I was just saying, sorry, it's unfortunate that the construction year happened and that USDA hasn't been as flexible with the project.
So maybe they need to hear that from you.
Yeah, they will.
And anybody else that feels that way.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, the next item, where are we? Okay, is another short one. Select board to discuss police department direction, considering regional policing versus just covering.
Another short one.
Can we run down to positive 5 first?
When we put this on the agenda, we didn't intend to get into a full-blown discussion about what the police department is going to look like. What we wanted to do was just talk about, we got some costs, some numbers together, and we were just going to talk about what it costs us to do the reduced staffing, the reduced hours, or what did it cost us to do Greensboro with full staffing and full hours, so we have full coverage. And we have that information in your pamphlet there, your handout.
Yeah, so it's probably right
Some of
after
it is in
that
there.
one. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
right here. So thank you, Casey, especially for pulling all this together. So this, I think, lays out Yeah, so basically, these are, what we're looking at are some scenarios of estimated costs of, essentially just personnel, personnel costs for, including salary, overtime, health insurance, dental, workers' comp, unemployment, FICA, and retirement expenses. And just to try to understand, what does it look like if, to try to cover just Hardwick, like from a budget point of view, what can we do to kind of get down within our budget? And this is not, these numbers that we're looking at are not an entire budget, it's, right? It's
The biggest
just-
part of it.
It's the labor cost. But this is not a full cost. So, in these scenarios of different numbers of full-time officers and part-time officers, it's important to note that you can't decrease the number of officers substantially and maintain the same level of coverage. You need to probably have a shift that you drop.
The minimum for full-time coverage would be 6 full-time patrol officers. That's your minimum for full-time coverage.
Yeah. Okay, this is awesome.
Other than that, you would have
I think it's really
officers
helpful to
working
put this-
alone, which is a huge liability and risk and just not a good idea. So 6 give you 3 shifts with double coverage.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's really helpful to see this breakdown. It would be even more helpful to have your anecdotal knowledge, Erin, of what that, what kind of service that equates to as well. So if what we're used to in our typical budget year is the 7 or 8 full-time and 2 part-time with the Greensboro contract, what that means for service, and if that's Hardwick and an additional town. And then if 4 full-time, 3 part-time meant that's only X amount of service, I imagine the lower you go, the less service you get. But I'm sure you have specifics within that too.
But this includes you too, Eric?
No.
No, it doesn't, so.
It excludes the police chief.
Excludes the chief?
But you're saying,
It
Erin,
says that.
basically 6 full-time and up is 24/7, is 24,
Yes, your minimum would be 6 full-time for 24/7. That's not, so your 6 full-time would be patrol. Right now, we have 6 full-time plus detectives, so we've been able to do a lot of the stuff that we've done with some of the drug roundups, drug investigations, et cetera, as well as several other investigations that we've done because we have a full-time detective. Without that, you're gonna see a decrease in the level of service. You'll have the same amount of hours with a minimum of 6 full-time, but your service level is not gonna be the same, and that's why we move towards 7 total with 6 as patrol, covering shifts for 24 hours and a full-time detective.
So either way you look at it, you're going to reduce your services.
Yes.
Primarily what you're going to see is the third shift or a third shift from midnight to 8 we would be down. We would not be functioning at that point. There'd be no officers on duty at that point. There's no way you could staff it. But we still were going to have a detective at that 4 full-time and 3 part-time if we did away with third shift.
Yeah.
Because he would be working a 2 to 10 shift.
2 to 10, we talked about.
And so that would be the extra officer you have on during the day, so you have 2 officers, and he could be called in. So they still would be able to work with 2 officers present, except that he might get drawn into other things more than he is now at being a detective on, a lone detective.
It would still limit his ability to do what he's doing now.
Right.
I have him, I have that as part of the full-time though,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, he's on when everybody else is on. He's like the second person.
Okay.
So, anyway.
So one of the things that stood out to me looking through these numbers is that it's going down to the minimum level in these scenarios. So the 4 full-time, 3 part-time brings you down to about 500,000 versus a fully staffed seven-person, so the difference is about 220, which is, within a kind of a rounding error of where you could be taking on another community, right?
It's almost the cost of doing Greensboro. Greensboro was at 250, right?
Yeah, so if you drop and you just cover Hardwick, you kind of make up the savings for the lost revenue, but you've also decreased your service level by a shift. Right, is one way to look at it. Like you can bring down when you bring down the cost,
Your services come down.
the service is going to come down a little bit.
And I apologize, I don't have our budget in front of us. Our current budget is for basically seven full-time, 2 part-time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And something that actually, make sure I have it in my book here before I say anything. So the voted budget, the original voted budget, this was assuming Greensboro was gonna stay in with us, but when we voted it, obviously, the original voted budget was 981,803. So that 981,803, not figuring in the reimbursement from Greensboro, equates to $513.71 per $100,000 of assessed value of property.
So say again, sorry. How much per 100,000?
It's a lot. So it's $513.71 per $100,000 of assessed property.
It's roughly a third of our budget. Right, when you factor in, because that 981,803 is the operating budget, but there's also capital in addition to that.
Separate budget, yeah. This is the voted expense budget, yeah.
Right, but just in general, the PD is about a third of our budget, the highway's about a third of our budget, and everything else is the remaining third.
But I was curious what it equated to as a taxpayer. How much is it costing me to have a police department that has the same level of service as what we currently, have? How much am I paying as a taxpayer according to what my house is assessed at? And so I was curious as to what that is. Again, around $500 or $100,000.
So,
because that's not figuring in Greensboro's revenue. That's figuring in us paying the 981. If that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, I see where you're going.
So it's not us paying the whole 981. That's what that's figured on.
So in our last meeting, we talked about, and John, you did some research into potentially hiring somebody to help us figure out all the different puzzle pieces. And thanks to Casey and Aaron for doing a lot of it on your own. It's not easy, but it might be, it might be helpful to really just be able to see where's the money going, kind of like our last conversation, and what is that service, and then what's the difference, like if Hardwick by itself can afford, without any other communities can afford, the number 3 option, just 6 full-time, 2 part-time, and this is what it means to have any town come back in and be contracted, like when does that bump us up or not? Like, do we have to, basically my question is, do we have to have, in order to support 24/7 coverage and the coverage that we want as a town, do we basically have to contract with another town in order to pay for it? Or not? Like, can we?
You would if, you would have to, unless you came up with $250,000 more in spending.
Okay. So that's basically the threshold of this 24/7. Like if we, am I getting that right, John? If we want 24/7 coverage, we really should find another town to support.
So those are one of the questions. Do you want 24 coverage, or do you want, or can you live with third shift? Put them off third shift.
And there is a couple things that kind of run into, I would label as being a bit pressing, is that we do have another town that has really been looking to talk to us, and sent out emails, and rather than put them off to the point where
they go away,
I hate to put them off longer, just to throw that out there as well. to start those talks and see if that's feasible, et cetera. So just, throw that point out. And then the other, one of the other things is, before we get done, so I don't forget, just give me a definitive answer. Yes, go work, figure it out and go to Woodbury and do, or no, we agree with you. I just, just to throw that out there so I don't forget. And the other thing is with 4 officers down, I need to know a direction. Do I hire for the position that the officer just resigned from? Or are we leaving that open, leaving me 4 officers down? I just need, I need some direction as to where you want me to go.
Because if you were down, even with the 3 part-time officers, if you were down to 4 and 3, you have to move ahead to eliminate that 3rd shift, and it won't be anything, you guys won't be involved, can't be involved in it because, you can be involved in it, but you're not gonna have any control over it because they can't work it. They won't physically be able to do that.
We don't have
Maintain vacations, any other time off, sick, illnesses and stuff like that, and then run a 3rd shift, you just can't do it.
As it is, I already have.
They won't do it, I know.
I had vacations planned, people that had vacations planned for the end of the month, this came in, and so I'm struggling for the end of the month as to
recovery.
There's not enough of us to be able to do that.
And the part-time are limited, they can't work more than 24 hours.
That's the other caveat with part-time, can't work more than
24 for Beamers and then 30,
Yes.
right, for health. Actually, they become full-time employees to work over 30.
Yeah, so
we
run into those other caveats with part-time officers.
Right.
20, essentially 24 hours, you can't work more than 24 hours, and we have to pay them in Beamers in the retirement system, back to their start date is my understanding.
And there's, they're 12-hour shifts, so if you look at it from that point of view, one part-time officer can only work 2 shifts. Right. So if you have 3 of them, you can only cover 6 shifts for those people.
Yeah.
So would filling the position of the resignee, it would allow the 24/7 coverage to continue, is that correct?
Yeah, it would help us keep.
And that position is already budgeted for, is that correct as well?
Well,
Yes.
nothing's budgeted for right now because we're not meeting our budget that exists.
The hard part is that we're still 3 officers down.
Right.
So we're still limping along, even with hiring that position. But if we don't hire for that position, we can't do there's no way we can keep 24-hour coverage for the next 6 months. Military is supposed to be coming back. One in January, is February, one, March-ish, I think, is the other one. So, I'm not talking the full year, but I am talking 6 months worth of time here where people are gonna get tired, and that becomes a liability as well.
So I want to tackle the easy question first, which is the Woodbury. The Woodbury coverage, to me, the numbers I saw, and I don't know if they're in our packet, but it didn't make any sense to me because you don't hardly generate any revenue after you take into account all the expenses.
Yeah,
It's
can we
additional.
throw that out?
Huh? Yeah, just throw it out.
Okay.
That's,
That
that
question's
makes sense.
answered.
Because I don't think it helps you. It just gives you more work and it doesn't
like
generate hardly any revenue
And the amount we were
Don't talk about it.
charged to even.
to make it worthwhile.
So one of the lines of thinking originally, before we started staff, numbers, one of the thinking was it would allow us to maintain some part-time officers, a cachet of part-time officers, and it would give them something to do even if we didn't have.
But now you have work for them.
But now,
Yeah, so
we need our part-time officers now, and so I need that direction from you as to, you tell me to figure it out, or.
you got it.
Or.
Yeah, no, don't.
Do we need to vote on that, or we just say?
Select board generally agrees, I would say.
Just agree, consensus.
Unless somebody wants to object, I don't think it makes any sense.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the other, I think I've heard from various quarters, like, let's pare down and let's just focus on Hardwick and let's not do a regional police thing. I think that it's just important to recognize that if you want to do that on a similar budget, then it means dropping a shift. If you want to continue with 24/7 local coverage, then, and the same budget, then it means adding another municipality. And the risk there is what we've just experienced with Greensboro, is that another municipality can choose to go another direction. Not at any point, but at the end of their contract.
Yeah.
And then, by the time you know that, even if we'd known that, say in December, it probably would have been too late to go find another community. There are only so many adjoining communities in the first place.
Sounds like we need a contingency.
So where are we at with getting a consultant or someone who's outside of the community to help with this discussion? Where are we at with having public forums or getting feedback from the actual citizens of Hardwick?
We're not anywhere yet, but what I would say though, some pretty simple questions to answer. They're simple, but they're simple to answer. It's not going to be simple to live through them, because you'll have to experience it. If you decide to go like right now, right now we're just talking money. We're just talking ability to cover shifts and the ability to run a police department either full service or part service. That's it. That one I think you ought to address that. And it's going to be addressed anyway, because if we don't have the officers, if we don't have any incentive to go forward and hire more officers, then we're going to stay at that level. But the thing is, that should be addressed. If there are other questions about the police department, because there are out there these days, there's all kinds of questions about the police department. We want that. That is an addition to this, from my point of view, and it's going to take a lot more time to figure it out. Because I think this is fairly immediate, where what are we gonna, how are we gonna police people? Where are we gonna be? How are we gonna do it? All that stuff, I think, takes a long time to figure out. It depends on what the community wants. And I think the only thing I can say, and I hate to say this, but if we went to third shift and we did it for 2 or 3 months, we could see what was gonna happen. We did away with third shift. It takes some pressure off you, because you don't have to go and try to hire a bunch of full-time officers.
The other thing to consider and remember is that if we don't, so run the scenario of we can only cover till midnight. That leaves the state police to cover for the rest of the time period. There are 44 officers. I sent Eric the link. Did you get the link on the state's survey study?
44 officers. 44 officers.
So state police is down 44 officers right now. Retirements statewide across, for law enforcement, retirements in the next couple of years far outweigh the academy graduates. So it leaves state police, and I know that's going to be you guys that need to address that with them, that we're going to need you to cover after midnight. They get done at 2 o'clock. So they would only be covering from midnight to 2 with no coverage from 2 to 8 in the morning.
Although they're mandated to cover.
They're mandated to cover, but they get done at 2 o'clock.
So they have people on call after that.
Yep.
So it's not like they are...
For life-threatening emergencies, yeah.
Right, so you're not gonna have somebody showing up to the vandalism in the cemetery.
Right.
But if you actually have an emergency, somebody's gonna answer the phone.
Right. Car crashes that do not have major injuries, burglaries that there's nobody present, all of those, they do not show up for those. They're phone calls. Or left for us to pick up at 8 o'clock. Just to, throw out what, what you're looking at for different levels of service, because I know people are used to, when they call us, we generally show up, rather than a phone call. Unfortunately, with the state, and that's not to anything they're doing wrong, they also are very down on manpower, and they're having to do a lot. They have a very large area that they have to cover, and a lot is done over the telephone. So there is no perfect scenario, but those are just some things to throw out that are considerations.
I'd like to come back to something you said a few minutes earlier, that they project that the retirement rate is going to be greater than the academy graduate rate. Is the academy not big enough?
So, partly, yes. This year in particular, because of COVID, normally they would do 2 classes a year. They're funded for 2 classes a year, with approximately 40 cadets in each class. Because of COVID and the tight quarters, et cetera, they're doing 2 classes this year, but half as many people in each class. So they're expected to put out 52 or less academy graduates this year out of the Vermont Police Academy. The other part of that is that nobody is getting qualified candidates. Nobody's getting qualified candidates coming into law enforcement. The amount of people that are coming into the law enforcement profession is way down. So it's a struggle. I was actually yesterday, I think it was, I talked with a trooper. Their last testing site, they normally have between 40 and 60 people show up to test, to go into the police academy and be part of, Vermont State Police. I think they said they had 4 people that showed up for that. So that's an example of the people just aren't going into that profession
Do we
anymore.
have a number for what it would cost to have the sheriff's department do that 3rd shift for us?
No.
To contract that to the sheriff's department?
Well, it'd be limited, probably only one sheriff that would do it would be Lemoyle.
Yeah.
And the sheriff is on vacation for the next 2 weeks. So no.
But we could.
But we can't
Right next to you.
No, we can get
Find
those.
that out.
Yeah,
So I think that's something that we should have in
right.
our calculations.
And then Aaron too, I understand as a manager how this wouldn't be ideal, but is there any reason why we couldn't hire another? We just hired our 3rd part-time officer tonight?
Yes.
Is that?
Could you hire 4?
If you hire 4, you might as well
5,
hire a full-time
6?
person, right? Basically?
What was that?
Like if you hire another part-time person, you might as well be hiring another full-time person. Is that kind of where that?
Finding,
Right.
it's just tough to find them.
Yeah.
Either full-time or part-time is a needle in a haystack right now.
So in the grand scheme, though, that's an argument, I think, against growing the police department back up to serving another town, because it's going to be harder to maintain that level of staffing if there just aren't as many people out there working, right?
Yeah, I can't answer that.
I mean, it's kind of what you just said. It's hard to find people, so.
It is hard to find people, and the level, the study that they did obviously shows the retirements. This area in particular, I know this law enforcement community, northern Vermont, is going to suffer significantly with a fair amount of retirements over the next couple of years.
So, throw it out there, I would think that you might have some luck getting some part-timers, because a lot of these people still want to work, even if they have 20 years of service.
Retiring.
I agree with you. I think it's going to be easier to maintain a smaller workforce and look for part-time than it is to try to go with full-time.
But we have a lower level of service when we do that.
Right,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure either how the union's gonna react to this either.
Right, that's one of the other issues that
That's the elephant.
we haven't heard from them yet.
Behind us.
The other point too, so there's part-time officers that are part-time certified, and then there's a full-time certified officer that may be working part-time. Ideally, a full-time certified officer that can do some part-time work is what we would ideally be looking for. The reason for that is there were changes in legislature going back 5-7 years ago that changed what officers at different certification levels could investigate. So a part-time certified police officer, which is a level 2, they have level 1, 2, and 3. Full-time is a level 3. The sheriff's deputies that do just transport from courthouse to jail, et cetera, are level 1. Your regular part-time police officers are level 2. They cannot investigate. There are several different cases that they can't investigate, domestic assault being one of them. And Hardwick does have a fair amount of domestic cases in town. So all they can do is they can separate the parties, they have to wait for a level 3 officer or a level 2E officer to come, take over the scene, investigate, make arrests as necessary. So that's the other problem we run into with part-time. You still have to have a full-time certified police officer at least available or on call in case something like that would happen, because then they're gonna have to come in and take over those calls. So it's not just major calls that we don't encounter a lot. Some of them actually we encounter quite often. Normally we have a full-time, certified police officer that would take over that call and investigate that particular case, make arrests as necessary. But so generally we use our part-time, to pair up and fill gaps when there's full-time also around.
So are all three part-time, are they level 2?
Level 2.
Aaron, if we authorized you to go ahead and look for somebody, search for somebody, what's the probability you can find them?
Well, I can fill that position. I can put it that way. I do have somebody who is on our part-time staff that is interested in going to police academy, et cetera. To find somebody full-time certified right off the bat, it's not gonna, like probably 6 months to a year to do it.
If I understood you probably, you said there is somebody who's part-time who would like to go to the academy and be certified full-time. So that person's not available to work a shift while they're at the academy.
Right, that would be February of next year before they could go to the police academy.
Could they work a shift without getting full-time certification?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Right now, as just working part-time, we're hampered by the 24-hour thing.
Which is a cost thing on our end.
Yeah, because we would end up paying into the retirement system. Yeah.
But that probably wouldn't hurt either. I mean, you could do it. I don't know what it would cost, though, do you?
Well, yeah.
More scenarios.
Yeah, there's more, but everything costs.
This has not been an easy thing to figure out.
It seems like this has helped answer a lot of questions. Like, in order to get 24/7 coverage, we have to have this amount of people, and by doing that, we have to have a contract. Like that's been a question we've been asking, so it's great to know that. It's also great to know that sounds like very difficult to have a 7-person full-time police force, not including you, Aaron. So I guess
You mean just to get up to that staffing level?
Just to get up to that staffing level also seems like but maybe, we've been able to work so much magic, maybe 6 would be okay. But those are a lot of questions that I had, and so I feel like they've been answered. I really appreciate that. The question that I feel like we've been kind of skirting around is that what actually do the residents of Hardwick want? Do they want to have just a Hardwick police force? Do they want to have a larger budget that means 24/7 coverage? And we've been asking that at all these different meetings, and I don't know, to Sherry's point, if we can find somebody to help us really have that conversation, or have a couple of community meetings that basically say, here are the 3 scenarios that we've come up with within our budget, and here are the options. It's not a vote for town meeting, but it's just to kind of see what, and to John's point too, we might, depending on what the union says, if we don't have enough staff, that's been the case for a lot of communities in Vermont. They're dealing with that too. And so that
a lot of police departments have actually decreased the amount. They're not doing 24-hour right now because they don't have personnel to do it.
But we may not even have the personnel, even if we want to have the personnel, except we do have 2 people potentially coming back from military service.
We'd be in much better shape once the first part of the year comes around.
Right.
And that timing is tricky too, because if we hire another full-time person, but then those 2 people come back, then we're at the 7 full-time, and we potentially don't have a contract, and then we're kind of in hot water because we've just built our budget back up again. So it's a really tricky, I feel like having somebody else help.
That's why it's not my decision.
Well, with the scenario you just laid out, like if we, is one possibility to move, if we wanted to go back to the regional policing thing, bring in another community, well, then the path to that would be tell Aaron, go ahead, try to, fill that full-time position, however, and then the contract wouldn't likely start until July 1 next year. Likely.
Yes.
So by that point, those 2 other officers who are on military duty would be back.
Right.
You have 1 person who you've brought on full-time.
Right. So, which brings me back to, your question, Eric, about, how hard to find officers. So when everybody comes back, if we were to hire for this position, everybody comes back, but it only leaves us down one position if we were to take on another community. So we actually would be within close staffing levels to be able to do that,
So that's a possibility. And then for the same amount of money, we could not do that, we could not take on another town, and we could have reduced service.
Well, there's something about the military leave that also allows us some time, because theoretically, if they hopefully come, they're great officers, if they come back, even if we're at our 3 or 4, that would knock us up to 6. And then it's only, it's hard to believe today, but it's only a couple months to January. So I don't know, maybe it's just maybe that allows us some time to really figure out how we could afford that additional scenario if that's what the town wants to do, the regional scenario.
So I think the only problem with that is it's likely we would lose another town. The possibility of another town if we wait to that point.
Yeah.
Is my feeling on what I'm getting.
Yeah, we probably would want to engage in the, well before that with another town if we were going that way. Because they're going to build their budget too.
Right. My feeling would be that that's a decision that needs to be made sooner rather than later.
Right, they do want to know if we're interested.
Yeah.
They do keep emailing.
Yeah, and they've been, had to been put off because we haven't really had a conversation about it, where to go from there, and so.
Also, in terms of just gauging community support, I don't really see a way of doing that short of a vote, but because
we haven't even had we haven't really had a public forum with the exception of having it on the agenda at the select board meeting.
Right.
So I think, we know that we don't have a lot of attendance. I invited my new neighbor, Harry, to join us tonight because he has a lot of, some interesting experience related to this, but I do think that the community needs to be able to weigh in and not just at town meeting day on the budget after we've made some sort of decision.
we could have a vote soon, we could have a special vote.
Sure.
I don't know.
But you'd have a public hearing before you had a special vote, just to go over the options and talk people through the whole process. Explain to them what the options are.
I think it's important that we do something like that. The me and we wants a local police department, putting it there. I want Hardwick only. Hardwick, East Hardwick. I think that's enough. Saves on cars.
East Hardwick is Hardwick.
I know, but.
No, it's an independent republic.
Well, and to that point, Sherry, too, is by contracting out, there's really only one, and we don't know whether they would even, be interested in it, obviously. But you're talking, again, a response time that may be coming from Johnson or Hyde Park or Eden. And they don't know.
Not us contracting out, you're talking about.
No, for if we were to contract leasing services out, like what, Sherry had asked
Third
about.
shift for the sheriff.
You're looking, if you were gonna do it, you'd either do it all or, if you were doing it for the third shift, you just put that money, it's gonna cost you more than it would to just put the personnel on. So your personnel is about $120,000 to $130,000 for 2, and it's gonna cost you a lot more than that, if that's what you were talking, for a shift,
I don't really know what
a
I'm
night.
that's the reality of it, and we're sitting here, I don't really know.
We need to ask the sheriff what it would cost, and it all depends on what you want for service. You want just to do traffic, it'd be different. If you want to do full investigation.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the middle of the night, when we don't have, if we chose to do the, third shift thing where we take that out.
That's what I'm talking about too. You can have them come in here and do traffic at night, or you can have them come in here and arrest people for breaking and entering and then do the investigation on it. There's a couple levels of service, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, but what I would expect for that, and we don't know until we ask, obviously, but I would expect that knowing what our personnel costs are for 2 officers to bring us to that level of service, that the cost of hiring somebody would be much higher for a 12-hour shift than it would be to hire, but we don't know for sure.
Yeah, so we should, when Mark Wu comes back, we can ask him. We're pretty comfortable that Caledonia's not gonna provide services. We're pretty comfortable that Orleans won't.
No. They're not personnel.
But the only other one would be Lamoille. And they have half our officers there anyway now, so. Or a third of them anyway.
So we wouldn't have our own officers on call then?
Not at night.
That's something that we haven't even discussed.
We haven't talked about it, but
I mean,
we
it's
did
like
the
a town
on-call
crew,
stuff before.
I mean, we get paid to come in on call, so.
Right,
we
that's
have-
another model. Yeah.
The problem with that is that we don't have officers close.
Other than you, Aaron.
Other than me. There's 2 of us that live in
Yeah,
town.
but then we're in the same scenario what you're talking about, Lamoille County Sheriff's being up in Johnson.
Right.
Responding down. I mean, it's the same scenario with our officers not being in town and they're not being in town.
And then you just go with the state police. I mean, you know what?
Yeah, I
I'll
mean-
tell you right now, I live in East Montpelier, and state police cover East Montpelier. And I don't feel threatened at all going out in the evening. I don't feel threatened, we're not having some huge crime wave as a result of having state police off at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I'm not that fearful of it, but I don't live in a situation where we have 24/7 police coverage. You guys do. So that's why I'm keeping my mouth shut.
I'm working very hard to follow this. There's so many moving parts that it's not something my brain handles well. But I wonder, it seems to me that it's not mutually exclusive to say, go ahead and hire for the position that we've just lost. And we need to have a community conversation about what kind of policing we want to have. Because in my experience on the select board, police officers leave for someplace else on a regular basis. You already are not sure whether one is going to come back from military.
There's a certain amount of attrition.
Yeah, that if we have an immediate need,
We fill it.
fill it. But also have the conversation that, do we want to be a regional police or do we want to have Hardwick only? I don't think those are mutually exclusive decisions.
They are not. I would say, though, there is a bit of a timing issue for next year, because if we went through, if a community process ended up being lengthy at all, there's a possibility that there wouldn't be another, and the community wanted a regional policing model. There's, I think, a good possibility that we wouldn't have another community to join us if we were too late in the calendar.
Did you start doing your budget making in November, December?
Which is why we should probably do a community, well, let's do something in September.
It needs to make up its mind pretty quickly.
Yeah.
The other thing,
Why not do it in August?
Yeah, if it's just a forum with some information and then
A vote.
a vote, I think we can do that pretty quickly, no?
the other thing that,
Alberta.
Casey?
If it's not a vote,
I said if it is a vote.
oh, if it is a vote, it's gotta be warned for, what is it? I don't know that off the
30
top of my head, I'm sorry, I think it's 30 days for a special meeting,
Okay.
special election.
If we had a forum in August, we would vote in September. And that's before, I don't know about this other community who would still be willing to sign on.
So we just need to talk
them up to
with
date,
them.
yeah.
one thing that I'll throw out too, and I talked with the officer today as to, reasons for leaving, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm hearing this not just from this officer, but there's a certain level of uncertainty amongst the officers with talk about, what's happening, what are we doing, et cetera, et cetera. That was the reason this officer left, went to what he felt was a more stable work environment.
So in other words, we need to make a decision
So,
sooner than later.
I fear that if we don't do it soon, we'll lose other officers, because every town has open positions right now, and are paying as well, if not better than what we are. Yeah, so.
And they don't live here, so.
Right. So I just don't want to see it go down to two of us. That's a lot of work for two of us to do. And, yeah, and I totally respect that, they're worried and as to what's gonna happen and are they gonna have their jobs and et cetera, and that's really what's on their minds right now. And if they get an offer from another town that's not going through this particular thing, and I know two other towns to the west of us are not, they're very stable and they have multiple open positions and they're filling them.
So was he concerned that we were going to fire him?
What's that?
Was he concerned that we were going to fire him?
I think he and other officers are concerned about the reduced level of staffing, or are we just doing Hardwick? Does that mean our budget goes down? Does that mean we have to lay people off? Yeah, those are all worries.
I mean, with the level of turnover that we've had for the last decade that I've been on the board, I don't see any reason for firing people. They leave pretty quickly.
They leave on their own, yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the average or, medium length of tenure is, but it can't be very long.
Actually really good for the last 10 years. It used to be, 2003, 2006, when I left originally, I went to Morristown, there was 4 or 5 of us that left within a month. So, and that was a standard, actually, when I was hired on in 2003, the only people working were the chief and the sergeant, and hired all of us on in one block. We actually had to split going to the academy. Half of us went during one academy and the other half went during the second set of academy. So we've been really, I think, really good as far as turnover. I mean, a certain amount of turnover is normal in every job, and it's also certainly normal in law enforcement. But when you get that uncertain feeling about your job and what's happening, and that doesn't, police officers like a very stable environment when it comes to their work environment. Is very similar to military. Things.
I don't think everybody likes stability, a feeling of stability.
Well, I mean, at least until, I would say, at least for this scenario, those 4 full-time positions should feel stable because that's our local options.
That's our minimum.
And so that's our minimum and we're there, and that should be, I mean, that seems like we've got the budget for it. It's gonna be that way for the next year. Like doesn't feel like that's changing. It's just this asking, it's just that, are we growing, basically? And or what the cost, I mean, there's some great questions that maybe we could review some of those answers at our next select board meeting before we have a community forum to make sure that we have the information to appropriately answer questions that we would get. But questions of I'm sure we would get asked, what would be the cost of just having the state police rather than HPD? That would be a question. We can come up with that answer. What would be the difference in service, like what we've been talking about tonight? Just so we can show, basically, if you want this level of service, this is where our police department fits in. And that, I think we have a lot of those pieces, and you guys have put all of that together, but those are the questions that people are asking is what does it mean to have a purely Hardwick Police Department? And then what does it mean to have it expand? So I don't know if that makes sense as a next step to we were able to figure out the Woodbury thing quickly. I guess, I don't know if we need to come up with a direction for hiring tonight or if that can wait. And then what are the next steps in terms of community involvement? Do we even need to have a vote? Those are all questions that look to the town too.
Well, we certainly don't need to have a vote.
Yep. So we could just have a community forum and then the select board could decide based on that.
Sure, or yes. I mean, we do it all kinds of different ways, but I think if we truly want to know what the will of the voters is, the way we do that is by polling them and having them vote. Otherwise, you view that, as a more representative government, we've been elected to represent the town and make these decisions. So I think it's fully within our power to decide. It's just it's a big question for a small town, I think. And so sometimes I believe we put the Christmas tree to a town vote. So
Too hot to touch.
acquired.
Yes, we did.
And people are still not happy.
I'm not happy about it. But I was one of the people who wanted people to decide for themselves.
So is there anything else tonight that we need to decide? I'm just recognizing that it's also 8:30.
It is really
So-
late.
This is a really important.
So I
thing
just
you're
have one
doing,
question.
but-
Is it not true that if we do not hire a full-time officer, we're going to lose the third shift?
Yeah.
And if we do hire the full-time officer, we maintain the third shift at adequate staffing levels, as well as the potential in the long term when the two return from military service to pick up another town next budget cycle if that becomes available.
That was a lot.
That was yes, I think.
Yes.
That's what I've got.
No, I think
Yeah,
I think that's a summary, yeah.
Boil it down.
So I think that, in my personal opinion, that we should hire another officer. That we're gonna win in the long term anyway, and as Liz had said, to engage the electorate, so to speak, to find out what the town actually wants. We can't not hire another full-time officer.
But we could not hire them.
I think that that's unreasonable.
Are you making that as a motion?
I have not made that a motion as part of
Do we
discussion.
need to make that a motion?
I don't think it
Because
needs
it's
to be
in
a
our budget.
motion.
So it's just saying here.
I just need some direction.
Right, absolutely.
We're not get it done.
I mean, you can also always advertise, Aaron, and then see.
It would be
you know.
advertised anyways, yeah. Actually,
You don't wanna,
we still have it advertised on,
Yeah.
Training Council's website. I mean, we leave it there. Never hurts to get applicants. Then you're ready if somebody leaves. So,
right.
So if it's already there, then we don't need to really talk about it, because it's already posted. Right?
Well, it's continuously posted, but do you want me to fill the position, is what I'm asking.
I think we probably should.
I don't know. Yeah,
That's a tough one.
okay. Can we
It's
revisit next
8:30.
time?
We can, sooner the better, but, I mean, this all happened today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And right now, I don't see how we can do a 24-hour coverage right now.
Just right now, even.
I've got,
Is it a 2-week notice?
I got until the 29th.
Next meeting's August 5th.
We could have a special meeting, I guess. During the day. During the day.
9 a.m. works.
I know it's great being out here at night and everything.
Yeah, it's lovely.
But I think maybe a day meeting wouldn't even hurt. Like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Great.
Yeah, after lunch.
What do you say, Doug?
Well, and if your hair passes too, then nobody's gonna cover you and protect you, so.
Oh, yeah. Not too important.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, there is a bit of a process to hiring now.
Yeah.
Especially if we didn't hire from within, from our part-time contingent, if there was, somebody else. It is a month-plus process now. I mean, just throwing it out there that it's likely that we would be able to hire from within, I believe. But originally, we thought we were also going to be able to work that individual more than 24 hours. So he was kind of planning on that as well during that leave. And now we can't work him more than 24 hours. So I want to be able to hang on to him too and not lose that potential full-time candidate.
All right.
So
We've got to move on, even if it means that we're doing a special meeting next week. Because holy cow. All right, so, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna move us. Next is select board to authorize purchase of a new Bobcat 5600 from Champlain Valley Equipment in the amount of $42,394, which is in the capital plan. This is replacing the Toolcat. And
How old's that tool cat?
Corey was here.
5 years old,
It's 5 years old. It's a
And that's how long they last?
pretty close.
We put like, I don't know, $17,000 in repairs in it in the last year and a half.
So tool cat's not the thing to go with next. We're going back to the Bobcat because we went with the tool cat because we didn't like the Bobcat last time,
Right, so
right?
we're sticking with the Toolcat.
So the Bobcat 5600 is another Toolcat.
Yes, same thing what we have.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's what, that was confusing me.
Is this the brand?
Yeah.
Is there any other discussion? I motion that we authorize the purchase of a new Bobcat 5600 from Champlain Valley Equipment in the amount of $42,394.
Second.
Any more discussion on the tool cat purchase? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I think that was everyone anyways. Motion carries. I think that was everyone. Next is, so Tom, you'll take care of that with Casey and away we go. Next is discussion about another light topic. Changes to the town's charter for some elected positions to make them appointed and eliminating the lister role. So this is precipitated by the list, our two listers who have been listers for a very long time. Jan and Jean are both retiring end of the year. And they have, in all fairness, been threatening to retire for like 5 years, so. Yeah, they finally are gonna do it. And we had hired previously as a kind of a baby steps solution, we'd hired an assessor to do some of the listers' work, but they stayed on. We now have, so we would, I think, we have a proposal from our assessor to cover what the listers have been doing, basically do it all for us, which is, I think, probably what we want to do. I don't know.
Yes, so our contract runs out March 31st with them.
Yeah.
They have given me an idea of what they would charge us to cover those 3 months right after they leave until we look at renewing the contract.
Yeah.
And they've also kind of given us an idea of what we might be looking at for monthly fees for someone we budget for the future if we continue with them.
But the problem with sticking with the lister thing that probably most of us remember was that being a lister has become a pretty specialized profession, and we tried very hard to recruit for quite a while, and I believe we got one person. Did we get 2?
Kind of.
But we have one that stuck.
We have one that's stuck, kind of stuck, but isn't really stuck.
So we just had trouble filling the positions. It's specialized. A lot of towns are moving to an assessor. Just hire somebody whose profession is to do this. So the trouble is that even we can just continue on and that we don't have to change our charter, but then if we don't change the charter, we still have to elect listers and then just expect them to not do anything.
And we have some other positions in the charter that if we're gonna go to the trouble of changing the charter,
Yes.
then there are other positions that we have talked about in the past, updating or changing the way that it works, eliminating some of those things like the fence viewers and I don't remember, John.
There's a bunch of them in our charter. Let's see if I can think of them. I can't think of them all probably, but yeah, there's the fence viewers, there's the auditors, there's the internal auditors.
Town agent.
We like the town agent, but it's not required in our charter to have a town agent. But I'll tell you what town agent does. That is the person who defends the town in lawsuits, and I think that's a lawyer's job. So actually, what we would do is eliminate that position and just say we're going to hire an attorney to do that. And then the town agent to transfer property is a person who signs the deed on property transfer. The town manager can do that in a town manager form of government. You just say the town manager, town agent don't have to, and so you don't have to. You can appoint one at the end of the year, but it's not elected or anything. So
auditors.
The auditors are elected, so I think the auditors is just like similar to the listers, is a very involved process.
And we hire auditors every year.
We hire auditors every year, so what we would say is we want to eliminate the election of auditors, and we're going to go with a contract CPA firm.
Do you mean trustees of public funds? Is that what you're calling auditors?
No, the auditors, we have internal auditors that audit, they're supposed to audit your books. In East Montpelier, where I'm a select board member, we have external auditors, and those auditors in town still audit. And I'm like, and I'm trying to explain to them why they need to have fraud prevention and all that stuff, and then there's a guy sitting over there who's an internal auditor, who says, you don't need that, our town's too small. I said, well, tell the Hardwick Electric Department it got embezzled for $10 million if it was too small. And I said, you know what, frankly, I don't care.
But the same, so this is the risk of still.
First and second constables, because we do have a police department.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't need these, we've taken up space in the
We actually
court
already took
and.
away their police authority also, because that was
Right.
required. So
But there are 3 trustees of public funds, and we don't have time, but I think I know where they came from and why they're no longer relevant in any way, whatever. A surveyor of wood, bark, and lumber.
No, we don't need that.
Right.
I would say the tree warden should stay because all the issues surrounding the emerald ash borer and taking down those trees, the tree warden's playing a huge role in the town where I live. And I think it's important because basically they handle tree issues. So
There was
I would leave
something
it.
here that we turned over to the tree warden. I don't remember what it was.
The Christmas tree over there,
No, but it was.
So,
the holiday tree.
No,
No, it was something else.
We voted on, yeah, but he.
so part of the timing with this is that it's a long process to open the charter, make changes, and then.
so it's best
Well,
to
did you
do
look
like
at
what we
the-
want to do.
It's not-
No,
it's
did you
just
look at
two-
this?
It's 2 meetings?
It's not that long.
Did you look at the steps?
Yeah.
You can do it a couple different ways, but you can do it with a couple public hearings and
It originates from the select board.
originates from the select board.
Yeah.
Or it can originate from the voters too.
Yeah.
So it's
That's more complicated.
it's more complicated.
But then you have to wait for the, legislature to come into session and ratify it, right?
Right.
So they would ratify it.
That's what I was gonna ask. I was
Yeah.
thinking, does the legislature come in there somewhere?
So that wouldn't be
But
till.
it doesn't have to go like through town meeting or anything like that.
No,
It goes through a town vote. You would have to call a special vote, just like if you were going to a bond vote.
Yeah.
You love doing special votes.
It doesn't make sense to do it at the town meeting, then? No, just.
It would be too late anyway. You'd have to wait another year.
Right, because then you wait for the legislature to come back the following year.
So we basically need to get it to the legislature by the time they
They don't
start.
convene till January.
Right, so we've got till January, basically. Or, obviously, we have to do stuff before that, but.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk about the town clerk, what we suggested? I'll just, I have the list here, so the 5 select board members would leave the same, they're voted in, I guess we need them. The town meeting moderator, you need a town meeting moderator, so we'd leave that the same. And the town clerk, we had suggested that it had been suggested that the town clerk
Yeah, many
position
towns
be
in Vermont have changed that.
be appointed. I mean, that's something we're gonna talk about some more. The treasurer would be the same. Listers eliminate and use an assessor. Cemetery trustees, leave them the same, unless you guys wanna do it. Library trustees, leave the same. Fire department officers are voted in, leave them the same. The first and second constables, eliminate them, we have a PD. Tree warden, leave the same. Eliminate the fence viewers, you eliminate them because basically they do what the zoning officer does. Basically, finding people's property lines. And then the grand juror, this is all you have on the charter. The grand juror you would leave the same. Now, not charter related, so you could probably do this anytime, is elimination of the town agent and the town agent to convey real estate.
And the trustees of public funds.
Yeah, I missed that one. And the trustees of public funds, we need to add that in. Darn.
And then, John, is this also the time to change terms as well, or can we do that without, like, it was brought up at the HED meeting that the HED commissioners were interested in adjusting the
It
terms.
doesn't require a change in the charter because it's not listed.
It's just
That's how we would
the
appoint them.
officers, basically, or the commissioners, okay.
So I don't understand, anyway, we'll talk about this some other
Okay.
time.
Can we table this till?
Yes.
Okay. Moving on.
Table away.
Next, do we have to do water and sewer budgets? Is that time critical for now? or
It
for-
is,
Oh, geez.
because we're already into the new year.
But this won't take long.
I mean, it's
Yep,
basically,
yep.
I can explain why
Please
we
do.
did the changes. So let's do sewer first. I sent you the sheet, I highlighted the items in yellow that have been changed. I'll quickly go over them. So the bottom line is that
We received word that the sewer bond is not able to go out 30 years because it's really equipment replacement, not really infrastructure. So they're only allowing us to do a 20-year term, which made the payment go from $59,000 a year to $80,000 a year. So we really needed to look at this because first of all, we need to be sensitive to the ratepayers on this. So John and I went back through this, and what we came up with, so the original budget was a 5.12, I believe.
Percent increase.
Yes. We're at 5.44, but so what we did was, we looked at the public works salary and benefits and the office salary and benefits, and we felt that those amounts were too high. And so the plan is over the next 3, 4, 5 years, we're gonna cut that probably in half. We took off $5,000 off each of those categories. That's money that goes to the general fund. So we felt that was overinflated. We took $5,000 out of each of those categories. I adjusted auditing because since we did the original budget, we actually know how much our audit's gonna cost. We didn't have enough in there. I separated out the capital fund transfer and the debt service for the wastewater. This first year it's $40,000 because it's interest only. And we also eliminated the town equipment charge that this fund pays to the general fund. Because the reality is it's not needed. And if there's a time when these funds use those services, we can always address it at that time. So it brings the new total, and so then in the capital plan for sewer, I've adjusted the bond payment. What we're expecting is this 5.44, and for the subsequent 2, possibly 3 years, it'll probably be around 7%, and then it should level back down.
And we're making the same change, similar changes to the
Yes.
water side, and on the water side, people are gonna see a savings
Yes.
of about 5%.
Yes, so then we come to water and do the same thing, because that's kind of how we've handled it before, is similar amounts with the salary and benefits. We took $5,000 off there, fixed the audit amount. I did take away the town equipment charge. Pump house maintenance, I increased by $1,000 based on our experience this year. We went way over. And then again, I separated out the capital transfer and the debt service.
It wasn't before, the capital transfer and the debt service were just called capital
It was
transfer.
because it basically went into capital and the payment was made out of there, but we felt separating it to sort of show that was more helpful. And then, so this resulted in a decrease in the water budget of 4.44. So those people that have water and sewer accounts, one's up 5.44, one's down 4.44. So it would be
Balances out a
less of
little
a blow to our ratepayers, and that's obviously what we want, to be able to support this bond.
And what we noticed in this budget, and it's been here for a long time, is that we're paying administrative costs of about $78,000 a year in water and in sewer. And what that does is, that's essentially paying for like almost like a person and a half out of each department. And then we pay for a wastewater operator, which we do have there, but we also pay almost the entire cost for one of the municipal employees out of the wastewater, and on top of that, and then we pay for a municipal employee out of the water. And I'm saying, look, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's like 4 people we're paying for out of water, which should really be coming out of the general fund, to a certain extent. Not all of it, but some of it. And I feel the general fund can support it better because you have the entire town that should be paying for that. And I can just envision years ago when they decided to make these decisions like this, they were saying, hey, we need to keep the municipal budget down. Let's just put a little bit more on water and sewer. Well, after a while, you know, the small water and sewer, we have 550 hookups. And you're expecting those people to pay for all these employees? And I'm like, that's ridiculous. And I'll argue with anybody about it. Right? So, all right.
You want to start an argument right now?
And so what's going to happen is you're going to have to start pulling some money more out of the general fund budget to pay for those people, as opposed to taking out their sewer.
Well, it's just going to be less reimbursement from water and sewer to the town.
Correct,
So
yes,
it's
so
kind of
we're gonna just
flat.
gradually bring it down. We did 5,000 this year, we'll probably do like the same next
A
year.
little bit at a time,
Yes.
5,000, so it's not a shock to anybody.
But what triggered this was looking at the increased bond payment and then
Correct.
like, where can we save some money?
Huge.
And then like, well,
Correct.
why are we paying so much for people out of the water and sewer.
Motion to approve the revised FY '22 water and sewer budgets.
Second.
More discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Can I
Any
ask
opposed?
one
Thank
question?
you for all
Yeah,
that
go for
work.
it.
Are we gonna have a committee to get the rate schedules together? Because we're.
Want to figure out the rates for the water and sewer?
Yeah,
in
the past 2 or 3 years, we've had like a committee and we
Yep.
discussed it, and I don't know.
Last year.
Yeah, Kaylee and
Resolution,
Lucian
I
were our
think.
reps last year.
I will join,
I'm happy to again.
and
Eric,
unless,
you wanna
I will
join?
join unless somebody else wants to.
You go right ahead.
And that starts in August, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll probably shoot for that second week in August, not like the 9th. that
So
week.
fun.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Next, thank you for your work on those budgets, by the way.
Yeah, that's great.
Select board to consider, this is the naming Buffalo Mountain again. We have a letter. Does somebody want to make a motion to have the town manager?
I will.
To have the town manager sign?
No. Kate.
Oh, just sign it. Oh, we have a mess, okay, just to sign it. So moved, and second was Wiz. And discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? The ayes have it. We're gonna petition to have Buffalo Mountain named Buffalo Mountain.
You all saw that it was Barnabas King that won the design thing in the 80s sometime when, what's his name, who's the Stowe town manager, what's his name?
Charles Safford.
Charles Safford was the town manager at the time. They did a little logo contest. I wasn't here yet, so.
Oh, so this is the origin of the logo?
Yeah, so
we got
Barnabas
the-
King was the
Oh,
person who won the thing,
who drew it?
who drew it.
And this is an ancestor of yours?
There is some connection.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Great. So next, select board to select an authorized representative and contact person for the ARPA funds. And we have,
This is, so.
you gave it to us.
Subsequently, originally they just needed somebody who could go in, which
Right.
the treasurer to accept those
Right.
funds. But now the LCT has come back with some guidance and said that.
They want
there's
these two.
Additional steps, because somebody's gonna have to sign the terms and conditions to send in, which essentially
Yeah.
town manager, and then I'll be
Yeah.
like the person who has to do the financial reporting and such, so.
I would like to move that we appoint the town manager to serve as Hardwick's authorized representative as required, this is what we're reading, right?
Yep.
As required by the coronavirus local fiscal recovery funding from the U.S. Treasury to sign the award terms and conditions and assurances of compliance with civil rights requirements.
Excellent.
Amen.
Motions.
Second.
And a second. Discussion.
Is that a promotion?
Lateral move.
It's interim or acting town manager.
Okay, there you go.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Kaylee, you're on again.
I move that we name the business manager to be the contact person for Hardwick's CLRFR award from the U.S. Treasury.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Congratulations.
Any nays?
Thanks, guys.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Truly awesome.
There we go. Now we're
You see,
moving.
you give us a motion and we can be really efficient.
Select,
Okay, I'll start writing them all.
say,
Well, paving bid contracts, right?
paving bid contracts,
We have a recommendation.
bids are in, there's a recommendation.
Yes.
Even though there's no wording, low bid is the recommendation.
So, correct, because they also have no price adjustment with the liquid asphalt stuff, it can change fluctuating price.
Oh, so that's a
So that's
firm,
locked in.
that's a,
yeah.
but yeah, so that's,
So we are recommending.
So that people can
raise
fluctuate.
and their cost per ton or whatever is still the lowest of the three?
Yes,
Okay,
that's
great.
correct.
I move that we accept the bid from Grays in the amount of $131,408 for paving and authorize the town manager to sign the contract.
Second.
Discussion?
Are they the same people that paved Dewey Street
They paved a couple years ago, I don't remember.
a couple years ago? Did they do Dewey Street? Those storm drains, oh my word, that's absolutely atrocious.
No, that was Pike.
Okay, discussion then.
I thought we were very happy with Grays, is what I remember.
Yeah, they did the main drag down here. few years ago. That was like their first big job.
Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, select board to review and consider appointments. We have 2 openings on the Hardwick Electric Department Board of Commissioners. We've had 2 letters of interest from currently serving board members. Nat Smith, who was here earlier tonight, Lynn Gedanken, who's currently serving as chair of that board, have both submitted letters of interest to continue. And it looks like Lynn for a 2-year term ending June 30, 2023, Nat ending 6/30/2024.
I move to appoint Lynn Gattikin for a term of 2 years, ending June 30th, 2023, as an HUD Commissioner, and Nat Smith for a 3-year term, ending June 30th, 2024.
Second.
Any discussion? I think they're, so you seem to be on top of it, of their electric department stuff right now. So, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, select board to review and consider approval of 2022 corn drop request schedule.
We didn't need to do a lottery because
This is what we got.
This is.
They just all lined up magically.
Kind of, yeah, because everybody sort of had a first and second choice, so I was able to accommodate everyone.
Beautiful.
So, yeah, we agree.
Do we have a motion to approve the coin drop schedule as presented?
So, second.
I know, again. Any discussion?
Had a great one this year.
Yeah, no kidding. Hardwick Trails got almost $1,300, which is like a record for the Hardwick Trails anyway. All in favor, do we have a second?
Yeah, sure.
Sherry, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any nays? Ayes have it, motion carries. Sign this. Select board reports.
Saturday, the day after tomorrow, is our community engagement workshop for the bridge design in the Daniels Building parking lot. Hopefully the tent will go up without any cars parked under it tomorrow,
Hopefully the
noontime.
barricades and cones up.
Well, they tried, but there was a car parked there.
But I called there this afternoon, probably at 3 o'clock, to let them know not to park there in the morning.
Yeah.
So.
They're not up yet.
Sometimes it's not the
They're not up yet.
district.
They're there though. Are they there?
They're there. I'm gonna do it tonight
I
anyway.
figured Tom forgot.
I'm missing. I'll put them up tonight.
Why are you throwing Tom under the bus?
They're over
y'all
there, they're
did.
just not up. I saw somebody putting stuff over there, but
Alright.
they just weren't up.
That's great.
Anyway,
So
that's happening on
Saturday
Saturday. It starts at 1 o'clock
1
is the
o'clock.
beginning of the thing. If anybody can't go and would like to fill out the questionnaire, please contact me. I have a few right here, right now.
Or you
So
can
that we
drop
can
by.
get people's input. You can drop by Whistle, pick one up.
Or
You
you
can
drop by the
email
event.
me, I can email it to you, or come to the event. Don't have to stay for the whole thing, but it might be kind of fun.
And there's an agenda.
There's an agenda, yeah, it's on the poster, all that stuff.
Thank you.
You'll have to call it to order.
I think Sherry has me doing that.
I should do a thank you to Price Choppers Golub Foundation because they did give us $500 support for the activities around the event. So we'll use that towards the tent cost and other stuff. Probably mostly towards the tent cost.
Nice.
And then food is being donated by Jasper Hill and the co-op and
Wow.
so there's little
There's food.
refreshments, there's food.
Come on
There's
out.
kids' activities that Kaylee's organizing.
So fun.
Yeah.
Everybody
show
should
up.
come.
There'll be a tent. If it rains, you'll be under
You
it.
can put in your 2 cents about what the new bridge should look like.
Right, and hear more about all kinds of, Wiz is gonna do a little 8-minute, 10-minute presentation about history of the
Excellent.
bridge, et cetera. My other thing is that the open townhouses have been, people are showing up. On Saturdays in July and August, 10 to 2, the townhouse is open. Maya has put up all kinds of the old posters for all the different stuff that's happened there. People are there, volunteers are there, not me, to tour through, talk about the building, talk about the curtains and the historic stuff. And yeah, then otherwise, the downtown commission meets on Monday morning, and we'll talk about our stuff. Allison Lowe's gonna come to our meeting, talk about that municipal, what do you call it? Planning grant
MPG.
process. Yeah,
Great.
that's what I got.
Anybody else?
I just did some numbers now that I have the grand list. In 1868, Hardwick, which had a grand list of $5,000, bonded themselves for $60,000 to support a railroad through the town. Well, and that's 12 times the grand list. Multiply it and figure out, it's, I don't know how to say the number, it's more than trillions. What comes after trillions?
Did they have a contingency? That's my question.
2%.
I don't know, I am amazed at the courage of those people. And it paid off. You know, there would have been no granite industry without that railroad.
Right.
Wow.
Just FYI.
Thank you. Any other reports? New business. Old business. Unfortunately, I have two things, but I'll be quick. One is we had discussed when we came from virtual meetings back to in-person meetings that, you know, it would be nice, some people would like to be able to interact virtually still. I spoke with Vince O'Connell today, who's on the Hardwick Electric Board, and he wants that option for the Hardwick Electric Board, and so he's researching options. I know that we had said you guys could research options, I don't know where that went, but...
Do we do it in East Montpelier right now and just use a computer, a PC projector, and a screen? And we can see everybody, and they can see us, and then we can see us too, so we look funny.
Okay. So he's...
Easy,
yeah.
easy.
We already own those things?
We talked about like a big TV, like
Yep.
where there's a webcam on it, so you can see everybody in the room.
So I'm just proposing that we wait and see what Vince comes up with for HED and see if that's something that we want to share the cost with, and they're going to meet here anyway going forward.
It's like
Wide angle?
Wide angle webcam, right?
Yeah.
The Solid Waste District had a special board meeting tonight to discuss exactly the same thing, so figuring out whether, we'll see what they do.
So, all right, great, so you can report back on that too. Awesome.
HED is going to start meeting here? Is that what I heard you say?
That's my understanding.
Yes, they've reserved the space.
They said that they didn't, that it was sometimes difficult because they didn't know, like sometimes they weren't able to meet here. So I did suggest that they could reserve the space, and they did. That's excellent. It's not that hard to do. No. All right, and my other thing is that our town manager search committee is still moving along. Applications are rolling in, which is great. We did have one member of the search committee step down last week, I think. And I have spoken with Danny Hale, who we had originally asked to be on the committee, and he stepped down early on. He's willing to come back, which I think would be good. It would be helpful. Everybody's good with that? Okay, so I will contact him and get him back in the...
We have a meeting on the 22nd.
And we have a meeting on the 22nd.
So now we were down 2 people when we most recently went down.
Yeah. So Danny's gonna come back.
That's good. So we still have an opening?
I don't think we need to fill it. I think we're good.
Just one of people, it's hard enough to coordinate.
As it is. All right, any other old business? Adjourn, where's my gavel? It's only 9 o'clock. Oh, my word.
This time that was
Yep.
on papers before they...
Yep.
Not me though, right?
This one?